All right, let's get it drive time. Friday afternoon style, 8 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Beautiful day outside. It's cooled down just a little bit. We're actually going to have some cooler temperatures throughout the weekend. It's still hot because, it's summer. It's only August, inching towards fall. But as it is every single day, it is good to have you along for the ride, including the texter that felt the need to text in to crack on me during Sean's show about the fact that sometimes I can be a little bit mean about other people's music. Our guy's in his feels today. Sorry, pal. My musical taste is different than yours. That's a beautiful thing about discretion. So hello, texter, whatever your number is. We don't read text on this show, but thanks for chiming in. Thanks for listening to the station. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it weekend time. Take a big old deep breath. You did the things this week. You showed up, did what you had to do, and now you are rewarded with a weekend. Happy weekend to you. It's good to have you with us. My name is Spence Checketts. I host this radio show. That young man is Porter Larson, producing the program today, booking the program today with a lot of good guests. Excited for this today. Good guest list on the program. The return of the NFL last night, preseason, week 1, got rolling last night with 3 games. There are 3 more games tonight and then some games over the weekend. So there's some quarterback battles going on right now that we learned a little bit more about last night, and we'll learn a little bit more about tonight. Shedeur Sanders takes center stage for the Cleveland Browns. They're taking on the Panthers. The early game is the Lions and the Falcons. We will not see Jared Goff. We will not see Michael Penix Jr. We will not see Kirk Cousins. No Jaden Daniels tonight for the Commanders, but the Patriots, I believe, will play Drake May. So, NFL football on the program today. Dane Brugler, friend of the show from The Athletic, released his up-to-date offensive tackle rankings today. And the University of Utah, to nobody's surprise, widely featured. Some more love for Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu. We'll get into some of that on the program today. Last night we saw the Colts and the Ravens do battle. Anthony Richardson left the game with a dislocated finger. Daniel Jones came in, looked okay. That's your QB battle with the Colts. Joe Burrow actually played more than I thought he would. He looked good early. He and Jamar Chase connecting a bunch of different times. No Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. And then the Raiders and the Seahawks ended at 23 apiece. The Pete Carroll Bowl, we saw a little Geno Smith. Saw a little Jalen Milroe as well for the Seahawks. So NFL football is back preseason style. Get into some of that on the program today. Obviously, we are high speed ahead to college football. 3 weeks from tomorrow, University of Utah, Brigham Young, Utah State, all open up. Week 0's right around the corner. Chatted with Chris Camerani yesterday. He'll be in Dublin for week 0. So college football right around the corner. NFL football back for the most part. Lowry Marketing put on a show today. Eurobasket is going on right now. Larry Marketing in 25 minutes had 48 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 steals. We may have forgotten how good he is because they didn't let him play very much last year, even when he was healthy, to the point where the NBA fined the Utah Jazz $100,000. Speaking of the Utah Jazz, a new survey out today about where Jazz fans find themselves. Ultimately, a lot of Jazz fans not satisfied at all with the customer experience as a result of price hikes as it pertains to the lack of results. My old radio partner, Gordon Monson, with a piece on that for the Salt Lake Tribune today, so we'll get into it. RSL hits the road after their Leagues Cup experience. They were able to win on Wednesday, not enough to advance the club to the knockout round of the Leagues Cup, so now we hone our attention on MLS playoff soccer and the stretch run where RSL will be in New York coming up on Sunday to take on the Red Bulls. Now, Ruan Cruz was able to make his debut on Wednesday night, still awaiting the debut of the other designated, well, not a designated player. It's a TAM acquisition. I don't care about that. You guys shouldn't either. But Victor Olatunji, a legitimate number 9 who we could see on Sunday. He's working on his work visa as we speak. So, a little bit of everything on the program today. The world of professional golf is honed in on the FedEx playoffs, the St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis, Tennessee, where Tommy Fleetwood from the UK is looking for his first career victory on the PGA Tour. And after Tommy's round today, if he crumbles this weekend, a lot of people are going to be talking about that. Tommy went low once again. Round 163 today with a 64. And he is in the clubhouse at 13 under par, 4 strokes shy of the second-place golfers, which are Colin Morikawa and Akshay Bhatia. Akshay with a career-low 62 yesterday. Followed up with a solid 69 today. He's at 9 under along with Morikawa. Kurt Kitayama and Andrew Novak, 8 under par, as is Justin Rose. Justin's still on the course. Jacob Bridgman, 8 under par, also still on the course. Scotty Scheffler carded a 66 today, and he is 7 under par, which is good, tied for 8th. Bud Cauley, 7 under par. So is J.J. Spahn and Ludwig Oberg at 6 under. Siwoo Kim, Maverick McNeely at 6 under as well. Let's see where our guy Tony Finau, 2 solid rounds, a 69 yesterday, a 68 today. He's 3 under par, which is good, tied for 24th. So we'll keep you up to date on the FedEx St. Jude Championship as the World of Professional Golf honed in there, TPC Southwind, Memphis, Tennessee. Lot to do on the program today. Good guest list. We'll start things out with a real-life Batman, and we don't know if he's going to be in studio, and we don't know if he's going to be over the phone. I don't know if he's going to show up with a fur coat on and no shirt or a cowboy hat. But Trevor Riley is scheduled to be our first guest. Trevor, I learned as I walked in today, allowed one of our staffers to take home his New England Patriot championship ring to show to his family. Having some headphone issues here right out of the gates. So hopefully Trevor will be in studio. Maybe he'll be over the phone. But I walked in, and our guy Dylan next door is showing off a New England Patriot Super Bowl ring. I'm like, where the hell did you get that? I thought it was a replica.
Yeah.
And he hands it to me, and I'm like, this is real, dude. He's like, yeah, it's Trevor Riley's. When he was here yesterday, he just gave it to me and said, take this home and show your family.
Yeah, and Dylan, we love Dylan, but
Dylan's
yeah,
the best.
he's just kind of our neighbor radio station guy. Trevor's getting a little loose with the ring, I guess. Or it's your property. Handle it how you want it. I know if I had a Super Bowl ring that I earned, you wouldn't be touching it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor may have just met Dylan yesterday.
I think so, actually.
If we're honest, he's like, yeah, take this home.
Show your kid.
That
was the point of it. Apparently, the kid wanted to see it.
Yeah. No,
cool.
It's real. It's definitely Trevor's ring. It's not a replica. So hopefully Trevor will be in studio so he can recover his property that's probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. We'll do some college football and some pro football with Trev. Aaron Falk, our friend from the Salt Lake Tribune, makes his return to the program today for an entire hour during the 3 o'clock hour. Paul Pugmire for the latest on the PGA Tour and the local golf scene. Then Jason Batacchia, who covers the University of Utah for the Salt Lake Tribune, stops by as well. So Trevor Riley, Aaron Falk, Paul Pugmire, Jason Batacchio, me, Spence Checketts, noted music critic, and that guy, Porter Larson. Yeah. Am I too mean about other people's taste in music? You can tell me the truth.
One time I played a Hank Williams Sr. song, get this, like the godfather of country and Western music. And you came on the mic, you're like, all right, that's enough. You've lost the responsibility. What is this? What is this garbage? I was offended.
Okay, so maybe it is a me problem. Maybe it's something I need to work on.
I will say usually I do quite like your taste in music. There's rarely a time where I'm like, this is bad. I could make a lot of Dave Matthews jokes, but
you do. No, don't say could. You do.
Okay. So here's the thing: we can poke and prod back and forth, but it may have been a valid critique.
Your critique?
The texter.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I have this debate with a friend of mine all the time. Like, popularity does not equal quality.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
I would say especially like modernly, but that's another opinion.
One of the best-selling albums of all time is Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. Okay? So, let's be honest about where we're at here. I have the best-selling albums of all time in front of me, and a lot of them are awesome. Michael Jackson, very talented. Whitney Houston, one of the best voices of all time. I went through a phase where Pink Floyd was like my favorite band. I'm not a huge Eagles guy. Shout out Big Lebowski. Shania Twain, not really a fan. Bee Gees, Zeppelin. Look, there are a lot of albums that millions of people have consumed that just aren't very good. So, but the beautiful thing about music, just like the beautiful thing about a radio show or a stand-up comic or a movie or a TV show, is discretion is important. What is for some may not be for others.
Exactly.
But is there a literal definition of good music?
I think so. But again, everyone's view of that's going to be a little different. A really good example of this, I think, is the Beatles. I think the Beatles have made really quality music, but some of their most popular songs suck. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. It's one where there's like popular, which I think is something you can listen to in the background and you can listen to on the radio, and it's like going on during the course of your day. And then there's things you can go and like really hear, a concert, a live event, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think there is a line where there's good music and bad music, but again, that's just my own subjective taste.
Okay, what we're going to do on the show today, I'm going to pick an artist from this list of the best-selling albums of all time that I personally think are horrible, and we're going to play that music. For instance, the best-selling album of 2000, Linkin Park. Linkin Park sucks. Okay, and I could keep going. We've got little Spice Girls, little Ace of Base, Hootie and the Suckfish. There are a lot of really bad bands on this list.
Oh, I forgot you hated Darius Rucker.
No, it's not even Darius Rucker individually. It's the entire collective group. They're horrible. I've seen them live multiple times.
Didn't I try to make the case on live radio like 4 years ago that Hootie and the Blowfish was better than Dave Matthews
You
Band?
did, and it was highly offensive. Okay, it was highly offensive.
Oh.
Okay, right out of the gates, give me a little Meatloaf, okay? Give me a little I Would Do Anything for Love. That's going to be our first bump for Trev, because Trev doesn't give a rip. And I will take the criticism that I've received from listeners and my producer that I need to be kinder about other people's taste in music. I'm going to take that piece of criticism.
I think we can agree, Spence, that there is good music and bad music, but we can also agree that it's subjective and you can like bad music, and you have that right.
Okay, fair enough. So, Texter, congratulations on your horrible taste in music. All right, Trevor Riley is going to be our first guest today. But want to let you guys know, no long waits, no overpriced green fees, just pure golf. You can play 18 holes for only $45 and $50 on the weekends. I'm talking about my friends at Stansbury Park Golf Course right off of I-80. Whether you're a weekend warrior or just need a place to escape the office grind, this is your spot. Stansbury Golf Course, great rates, gorgeous greens, all just minutes away. Book your tee time now at stansburygolfcourse.com. Or excuse me, stansburypark.com. All right, real quick, and we're going to bring Trevor in. We'll get Trevor's take on this. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, who is one of my favorite NFL draft analysts, and he is a friend of the program. He's been on a couple of times. Dane, periodically, throughout the course of the summer, will release his summer positional rankings. Today, Dane released his offensive tackle positional rankings. And I know we all know the deal, and Coach Witt himself has said on a couple of different occasions, including at Big 12 Media Days with myself and Sean O'Connell, he believes this is the best offensive line that Utah football has ever had. In the 21 years Kyle has been with Utah football, he believes this is the best offensive line he's ever had. So, Dane Brugler, offensive tackle number 1, Caden Proctor from Alabama. The dude is like 6'8", 365, and he is the consensus, might be the first pick in the draft. Actually, that would probably be Arch Manning, but the first non-quarterback taken probably will be the Proctor kid. But at number 2, Spencer Fano, University of Utah, the second best, highest-rated offensive tackle in all of college football. Here's what Dane has to say about Spencer. Best trait, balance through engagement. He says, quote, there's a ton to love about Fano's tape. In the run game, he's a fluid mover with vice grip hands and the innate desire to drive his target from the spot. As a pass blocker, he uncoils out of his stance with light feet, firm punch, and smooth redirect. The common theme from his tape is an ability to stay balanced from the point of attack through the finish, regardless of the action required. Dane's take on what Spencer must improve is filling out his frame. You know, it's interesting. Big 12 Media Days, it's always interesting to see these football players without pads on. If you saw Spencer Fano walking down the street, you would certainly be like, that's a big dude. But you wouldn't be like, that's a massive offensive lineman who's one of the best in college football. He really isn't all that big. So the Proctor kid, like I said, is about 6'8", 365. Spencer's about 6'4", 300 pounds. So according to Dane, must fill out his frame. Quote, with an average overall length, there isn't much he can do about his arms, but there's room on his frame to add weight and strength to his base. He said he added 10 pounds of bulk this offseason, and it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts his performance. Here's the draft outlook according to Dane Brugler. One of the highest-ranked recruits in Utah history, Fano immediately earned his way onto the field as a true freshman as the Ute starting left tackle. He kicked over to right tackle as a sophomore last season and was even better, earning multiple All-American nods. With arguably the best offensive tackle tandem in college football, Kyle Whittingham thinks his 2025 group will be the best offensive line at Utah since he became the head coach 21 years ago. A sticky blocker, Fano is one of the 10 best prospects I have studied this summer. NFL scouts share the same excitement, and they also praise his intelligence and no-ego mindset. Number 3 is Xavier Chaplin, the Auburn kid, who's also 6'7", 340. Number 4, he has Francis, the kid from Miami. I do not know how to pronounce that last name, so I'm not going to do it. 6'7", 330. And then at number 5 comes Caleb Lomu. 2 of the top 5 tackles in the country play their football for the University of Utah, according to Dane Brugler. According to Dane, Caleb's best trait is his pass pro quickness with his light feet, quick hands, and athletic frame. He is very natural in his movement patterns as a pass blocker. Explodes off the snap, maintains knee bend, balance, and eager hands, easily shields speed rushers. Only a redshirt freshman in his first season as a starter last year. But Lomu, natural pass protection feet, body quickness, both of which will be coveted in the NFL. Caleb, 6'6", 305. So he's taller than Spencer, but he's not much heavier than Spencer. And so Dane essentially says he also needs to improve his play strength. His NFL draft outlook, he thinks he's going to be a first-rounder. I won't read the entire thing, but thinks he's going to be a first-rounder. But when I saw that pop up today on my alerts, I wondered where we would have these two, but I did not think we'd see 2 of the top 5 tackles in America playing their football for the University of Utah. Why is that paramount? Well, it's paramount for a number of different reasons. Namely, Devin Dampier was able to do a ton of damage on the ground last year without a great offensive line in front of him. And Coach Witt, Big 12 Media Day, called it kind of a one-man band, a one-man show. You should be really excited about what this ground attack could look like with Devin and Wayshawn, with these 2 tackles, and then a bunch of veterans around them. So seeing that ranking today felt pertinent to bring on air to kind of give you guys a little juice and excitement for what this rush attack is going to look like. I will continue to be skeptical of what Utah football can do through the air this year for a number of reasons. Devin's passing numbers last year weren't great, as we talked about. And we just don't know who's going to catch the football. We don't know what his weapons look like yet. Could I be wrong? Of course, and I hope that I am, because you have to have a balanced attack, not just in this conference, but in college football to win football games. So some interesting stuff there from Dane Brugler. You can check out his breakdown on theathletic.com. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side, maybe in studio, maybe over the phone, maybe with a fur coat and no shirt, maybe with his Super Bowl ring. You never know, but Trevor Riley will be our first guest right out of the gates on a Friday. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, I really only know one Meatloaf song. It's the "I Would Do Anything for Love" song. I'm not familiar with this one. Which Meatloaf song did you decide to go with here?
A little 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Okay.
I think the next most popular Meatloaf tune.
All right.
Maybe.
So let's get a little "I Would Do Anything for Love" next bump. Deal?
I got you.
Okay. So Trevor Riley is live in studio. Trevor, the question is there such a thing as simply good music? Like, can you define what good music is, or is it simply discretion and left up to one's taste?
I would say if you like classical music at all, right? If you like drums and violin, guitar, piano, I think Chicago. Okay, obviously, the album where they had David, whatever his name was, Foster, produced the album. That's pretty good music.
Okay,
that mixes the pop with some old school instrumental stuff with rock and roll, yacht rock type stuff. I mean, it's smooth and anybody can listen to it because not everybody likes rock and roll.
True.
Not everybody likes rap, but yacht rock seems to be one of those where I can get like Billy Idol. He's all right.
Okay, like you can digest it easily.
Yeah, it's like people who speak Spanish from Peru, not a heavy accent, easy to understand. Right? You go to Dominican Republic, it's gonna be a little tough.
Yeah.
That 2 years of Spanish is gonna be out the window.
No, fair enough. Trevor Riley is live in studio, one of the best to ever do it for the Utes, longtime NFL vet. All right, I do this with you every time you hop in. I just want the update, man. I just want the update because I have no specific questions. You never know where this is going to go. What's going on with you as of now?
It's been a wild ride, okay? I just got off the phone with Brian Blecken and Senni Faunuku.
Nice.
That's my defensive staff here with the Utah Islanders. So Salt Lake Community College affiliated. We're playing Snow College 2 Saturdays from tomorrow in Harriman at Zions Bank Stadium. Tickets from $5, right? Check us out, UtahIslanders.com. But we've been game planning, okay? And so we're putting a roster together. We went from about 15 guys to we're up to about 55 now. And so that's cool. We got a Utah Players Association we formed. Jesse Boone, Nate Orchard's our president. We got Sly and Matt Martinez on the board, myself and a few others, Derek Shelby. So we got a scrimmage tomorrow with the Utes. Okay, so we're going to have our first official meeting there. And then maybe some radio stuff. And then, newly married, so that's fun.
Attaboy, congratulations. I met your bride. She's lovely.
Isn't she beautiful?
Yeah, she's gorgeous. Good job.
At Lucia Therese Art, by the way. Great watercolorist.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, so UtahIslanders.com is where you go. So, Trev, let's kind of go back a little bit because radio is not linear. For our listeners who were not tuned in prior to, take us through the origin story. When did you first come up with this idea? And then unpack exactly what you're trying to do.
Well, all the credit goes to Chris Helin and his wife, Jess. They kept this semi-pro football team alive just for the love of the game. Neither of them have kids. And it's a couple who they own a company called Screen Protect. And he wanted to get involved in football. So he starts this. He gets involved with the Sentinels they used to be, okay? Utah. And this is low level. This is beer league ball, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
This is old school beer league ball.
Got to start somewhere.
So this is a couple of years ago. So then they morphed it, and he's an entrepreneur. He gets this idea. Why don't we link up with a college? And so Salt Lake Community College, as you know, does not and has never had football. That was a void. That's easily filled. So he set that up, and then we got a couple guys on board, Kenny from the University of Utah and a few other guys. And then, he called me and said, hey, I need you to kind of put a bow on this thing. Put this thing together like how you were doing at Jackson State in Colorado and helping out. I learned from Bobby Blecken at Utah. He's my best friend up there. And so there's a lot of continuity there. And so the idea was this, that we can put together a team where we can do a life after ball, right? An entrepreneur school, trade school. And that way, if you don't want to go to class, Spence, you can still play secondary ball. And at the same time, if you do want to go play Division I, we'll set you up. We got an academic advisor. You got a scholarship here at the community college. So there's a lot there. But the biggest thing is that we have junior college ball. I call it single A football now.
Okay.
In Salt Lake and Utah County. You don't have to go to Ephraim anymore. And that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
There's a lot of kids that are going to, they're showing up. They're calling me every day, dude.
I love to hear that. So I have the website up. I'll tell people continuously to go to UtahIslanders.com. And you have a roster. You have a roster up on your website. Last time you joined us, you said one of the young men practicing with you was wearing an ankle monitor.
We're all about redemption, baby.
I'm with you. You know me. I'm with you. Did he make the team?
Yeah, he's great. He's a linebacker, okay. He's a great kid. Right? He's actually related to the Sewell, so I coached at Utah.
Nice.
Nephi Sewell.
Very nice.
And so he's showing up every day. And we have other kids. We have a kid who's an engineer and wants to be an engineer. We have another kid who wants to be a doctor. We have a kid who's a plumber. We have a kid who's a welder. We have a kid who owns his own car detailing business. Just got a new Beamer.
Nice.
So, I mean, there's a lot. It's a potpourri of people, but the good thing is it's local.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 90% local.
Mm-hmm.
So this game on Saturday, the 23rd, it's a celebration of the state of Utah.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of the great high school players you've seen in the last 5 to 6 years. And then Snow College is going to put a great team out there. They're nationally ranked last year.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to start looking at this, everybody listen here. This is developmental football now. Okay, we are the farm teams for Utah and BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this is. You want to come see what the talent looks like, right? We just saw what BYU did with Jay Hill.
Yep.
They farmed about 6 of them out there, right? Brought them on over, won 11 games. So the blueprint's already there. And I think we're heading in the right direction. And thanks for having us on, by the way. We really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. You know you're my guy. So you reference you're going to scrimmage the Utes?
No, I'm just saying we want to feed them players.
No,
So
but earlier you said you have a scrimmage. Is that true?
the Utes have a scrimmage tomorrow.
Correct.
And
yes.
well, I'll be there. That's the Utah Players Association.
Oh, I see.
So we now we've become official. Okay, we went on the internet, so I guess it's official, right?
For sure.
I'm not on social media, but I guess that's how it goes now.
Uh-huh.
Nate Fakahafua Orchard is our president of the
Great
former
choice.
players.
Great
right?
choice.
The mayor of Sac Lake City.
Indeed.
Jesse Boone, vice president.
Mm-hmm.
And I said before, it was kind of a brain trust between those guys and myself putting this thing together. And we're working with Pablo Cano and Rudy. We're trying to. We got to get the alumni involved, right? And that's this thing that Utah's, as you know, as a Ute, that's one thing we've always talked about. I think Jeff, Rudy, and his crew, and Pablo, they're bridging the gap with us, and I think we're going to have a good family meeting on Saturday.
How can Ute alumni get involved with this?
Well, first thing we need is support, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for all you ex-players, if you played one day of University of Utah football, please come to the scrimmage on Saturday. Reach out to Adam Fry or Pablo Cano. We got a lunch at El Cholo restaurant after from 2 to 4, and that's going to be our hangout spot. And we'll have you over there, Spence.
Okay.
We got it going though now. Okay.
Love it,
so
love
now we're like every other university. It's not like some novel thing. It's not like it's already. This is what it is now.
So you feel like you have some good momentum. The things are going in the right direction.
What do you think? I mean, imagine this: if you were a donor, right? What if we start a hedge fund? Okay, what if I get some private equity money? Would you rather give your money to the school or give it to us? We'll go buy players.
Yeah. I mean, it's out-of-the-box thinking like this that's happening across the country that, honestly, you got to figure out some angle, Trev, because ultimately the reality right now, and this is not surprising to me because I said this 5 years ago when NIL started to become a reality, I said this is going to really benefit BYU. It's going to really benefit Brigham Young. They have a lot of entrepreneurs that have graduated from school and started companies and MLMs and whatever else they've done, the Silicon Slopes, the tech bros who have made hundreds of millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars, that very much love BYU athletics. And the interesting tie, this is something we talked about this week because Notre Dame and BYU right now have massive collectives and economic
tax-free money, baby.
Infusion. It's tax-free money. But the other thing it is, Trev, and you know this because you have an LDS background. If you're a Catholic and you love Notre Dame, and Notre Dame says to you, Notre Dame football is a great conduit and a vehicle for the exposure for the Catholic Church. If you're a member of the Catholic Church and you love Notre Dame, you say to Jack Swarbuck, how much money do you need? If this is the deal, if you're telling me that my football program or my basketball program will lead to more exposure for the church that I love, and that's my faith system, here's a blank check. And if you're a member of the LDS Church and Brian Santiago comes to you and says, we believe our football program is the best missionary tool that we have in our athletic department to spread the gospel, what are you going to say? How much money do you want? Utah does not have that built-in advantage. Yes, plenty of LDS people on the coaching staff, plenty of LDS people in the administration, plenty of LDS people that are alumni, but Utah does not utilize their message as a missionary tool the way BYU does. So whatever the out-of-the-box idea is, Trev, you got to come up with something for Utah to keep up.
I agree. And to answer a few of those points there, I would say this. We've never had an alumni meeting.
Ever?
Never.
Huh.
So that's interesting, right? As a football team, right?
Yeah,
We've never. Now, and maybe that's not a normal thing, but I'm sure they've had the meetings, just no one's showing. At least I'm not. And I've heard that from a number of people. That's not anybody's fault. We were a commuter school, right? We were not. They just put dorms up there, for the Olympics? This was not a place where people like moved to and went to school. It's downtown Salt Lake City.
Yeah, they had dorms, but I can tell you as somebody that spent some time up there in the 90s, they were it was like a La Quinta Inn compared to like a Marriott, which they have now. The dorms are a little bit better now.
So among other things, right, they tore up the golf course, and they, and I'm going to say this. I mentioned Brian and Senny. I'm going to give my generation a little credit. We bridged the gap from the Mountain West to the Pac-12.
Yeah, you did.
Okay?
You did.
And so there's some of us, me and Brian especially. Brian, really, he was there, and he started as a freshman. We beat Aaron Donald in that team in Pittsburgh in 2010. He has the game-winning pick, his first game, amazing play. But anyways, you go from that, right, to the Pac-12, the money, right? That was the biggest deal. We were always small time.
Yep.
Because we had no money. And we had no facilities. And so Urban, and obviously Coach McBride started the whole thing. Chris Hill hiring him and hiring Majerus.
Yep.
Chris Hill doesn't get enough credit for those two hires. Those are two big hires, man.
For sure.
You don't have to worry about basketball or football for 10 years, a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And so going forward, we got to start collaborating with the school. We don't want to fight the school. We want to work. We all want to win. Okay, the goal is to win. Mm-hmm. And for players, like for one thing, we want health care. That'd be nice, right? We got 2,500 ex-players. We could put something together, right? That's something we could do. So among other things, right? That's a good goal to start with, I think, Spence. And then for us, we want to be a vehicle to drive money for the school. We need to start earning money for the team. Mm-hmm. We need NIL money now.
Yeah,
a lot of it.
Yep.
Okay, or else people are going to start getting fired, and then people start getting angry, and you start blaming people. It's because we don't have any money. Mm-hmm. Your athletics, right, in Vegas, it's always the talk. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be the ace.
Right.
You don't want to be Utah State where they got one guy that's NIL money. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll be the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So not that we're ever going to be that, but it's the have and have-nots. I just, these Texas schools, they got money, and you're in the Big 12, right? And the Mormons, they got money. So we got to figure out a way. So I'm hoping we can collaborate with all the great minds who've played here or who are alumni like yourself who are doing big things. We need to start meeting.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, The Athletic did a piece today about the Big Ten looking into private equity. The Big Ten is going to make over $1 billion this year, and every member institution is going to take home about $89 million. That dwarfs what the Big 12 schools are going to take home. BYU will be a full rev sharing school next year. They're not full rev yet. Utah was full rev right out of the gates, which says a lot about how the Big 12 wanted Utah. But when you compare the Big 12 to the SEC and the Big 10, the gap is huge, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. And if the Big 10 gets ahead of this with private equity money, you can just kiss it goodbye. Because I really still think, Trev, at the end of the day, there will be this line of delineation that occurs between, we'll just use the easiest example, the Big Ten and the SEC doing their own thing and everybody else being left out.
AFC, NFC.
Basically.
That's it.
And so if you're Utah, if you're BYU, the two schools that we cover the most on this show, you have to have everything in order that if that phone call comes from the powers in the Big Ten and the SEC and they say, we are breaking away, no more NCAA, we don't give a rip about partnerships with you, we are breaking away, but we are interested in you, Utah, to join us. You have to have everything in line, and none the least of which is your economic model. And I honestly don't know what it is at Utah. I really don't.
Well, my grandfather tells great stories, Wayne Riley, about when the Arizona schools. He says, I remember the Pac-8. Those Arizona schools got in here. They took a decade to even be relevant. Mm-hmm. And he had a point. I went back and looked it up. He wasn't wrong in a lot of ways. And so what happens is we're going to scale to probably be a 2-conference football thing in college football. Mm-hmm. And the NCAA is already done anyway. I mean, at my level, they allow you.
For all intents and purposes. Yeah.
At our level, we're playing junior colleges, Division II and Division III, and semi-pro teams. Mm-hmm. So it's already. And I used to tell people, I was at Jackson State. Okay.
Yeah.
I never saw our compliance officer. We had one. She was awesome. She was for the whole school. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because we were breaking rules. It just they know at the bottom they don't care.
Right.
And so when you start scaling up, right, we're at the point now where they don't care anymore, the big schools, because they've lost every court case. And so going to what I think for Utah, we don't want to get caught like Arizona's, where we get into the Big Ten, but then we're 10 years behind, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You spend a decade catching up financially.
Yeah.
Let's get ahead of it. We know what's coming, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's where I think it's moving. Now, there are some complications with some of the television deals that don't expire for a few years. I mean, if you would have asked me, Trev, 5 years ago, what will the sport look like in 5 years, meaning now, I would have told you I thought we would already be in that model. Okay, so 5 years later, what we're looking at now, a few complications, and there's some momentum in Congress for the ability for players to collectively bargain. Now, that will be something that has to be passed through legislators and local leaders. And there are some complications when it comes to treating football players like employees. Certainly for a public school like Utah, BYU does not have the same complications. They're not beholden to the state the way the University of Utah is.
They still take federal dollars, though, I think, which means they're going to be beholden to somebody.
But as far as the ability to treat people like employees and collectively bargain, so the players, and look, the complications will be taken on by very smart lawyers who see dollar signs. Yeah. Like the best career right now in law is to sue the NCAA. Because like over the past, over the past 5 years, like every lawsuit that's been filed by the NCAA or against the NCAA has gone against them. And so whenever I hear people, I think it's lazy analysis when I hear people say, oh, there's too much red tape, you can't traverse it. Yes, you can. And powerful lawyers will take on this task of teaming up with college athletes and saying, we will collectively bargain on your behalf. And we will negotiate a salary cap. I know there's the $20.5 million that's been out there, but that's low compared to the revenue that's brought in.
And plus, there's private money on top of that.
Private money on top of it. We'll negotiate a salary cap. We're going to negotiate a pension. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of long after you play. And then the powers that be in the new era of college football will negotiate with the lawyers, and it's going to look a lot like the NFL. And honestly, this should have happened yesterday, because if we do this, Trevor, what it does is alleviate the issue of players leaving after a year.
Well, yeah, it's just like, why would you?
You sign a contract. Okay, you're here for 2 years with a team option for a third year, and that option will not be exercised if you're a top 2-round pick. You can leave to go to the draft. If you do that, players do not transfer willy-nilly. You can keep them on campus and develop a program instead of trying to break it. Bronco Mendenhall has 80 new players this year.
I know, man.
Most schools have between 60 and 70. It makes it impossible for a coaching staff to build a program, and it makes it impossible for a community to latch on to players because they're here for a year.
To your point, just to bring it back to Islanders, just to include us in one little thing, if we are really the bottom, right, if we are the single A ball, and we'll say Utah State's AAA, if you're a kid right now and you have an offer from Utah State as a linebacker, you get to go burn a year of eligibility to start as a freshman. We're not going to pay any money. Or you can come play for us. Right? Take 9 units. Your clock doesn't start.
Yeah.
Now you can see where it starts getting a little fuzzy there, right?
Right.
If you're a parent and you're a kid, you're like, well, if I think my kid's late develop, why don't we just take this year over here?
Yeah.
And so now the system becomes such where it cannibalizes itself at the bottom. And so at the top, if you have some structure, you seen that movie with the Duluth Eskimos with George Clooney?
I have not.
Okay, well, it's about the 20s when the government got involved because people were dying in NFL games. And so I don't think people are dying in college football, but it's getting out of hand. Trust me when I tell you. I mean, I have some wild stories about negotiations about NIL that are just like AAU. Just think AAU basketball. They already made the documentary with the AAU basketball.
Yeah.
We've already seen this show, right? It's not something that's totally crazy. So we got to get some structure up there. I think Congress is going to get involved because I mentioned earlier, when you take federal money, right, they want to say. And right now they see that they're not getting a piece of this pie, let's be honest. And with the current administration, I'm not getting political, but they're taxing everybody. So Trump's made it a thing where he'll get involved if they don't govern it themselves. And Trump's a football guy. We know that from the what was the league? The
USFL.
Generals. Okay, and he tried to get in the NFL. So I could see him, if this thing goes south again this year, where it's just a complete S show, as we would say, I think the feds are going to get involved because they're the ones spending money on these schools.
Well, and they're trying to get involved. The problem with that red tape is that it's so bipartisan that any Republican bill has to pass through Democratic votes, and they're just not going to vote in lockstep for everything because they have different approaches of how they think this should work.
Maybe football can save America. It's the only bipartisan thing left, right? Can we get together and get some legislation, please?
Football will make America great again.
There you go.
Okay. So, Trev, let's go back for a moment. If we have any listeners right now that know of a 19, 20-year-old that played high school football, was really good, couldn't make grades, didn't have money to pay tuition, couldn't get a scholarship, or just didn't have look, man, this is a tough game because ultimately, with the way it is now, you have to pay a ton of money for your young man to start playing soccer or basketball or football at a very young age. And it's a very specialized situation where if you want to play in high school, you kind of have to be a part of the pipeline when you're 6, 7, 8 years old.
It's expensive, man. It's like club baseball, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my son played club soccer.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I remember the first trip he had to take. I was like, wait, I'm paying $13,000 for that? Like, what's going on here? So if you don't have the means to expose your child to a high school coach and by proxy a college coach, if you have that young man who you think has potential, you have a home for him with the Islanders, right?
And I got to preface this. Right now, I need a couple big boys. I need some offensive linemen.
Okay.
He's a defensive lineman or two. Need a quarterback, right? But when the season ends, our short season, we're done on October 11th. We'll be having tryouts again, and we're always looking for talent. Right?
Yeah.
It's getting a little closer to the edge here. That's why we're narrow it down to those specific positions. But absolutely, and not just 19 to 20. I want guys 19 to 26.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be return missionaries. I got a guy who's 23. He's a freshman. This is not college. This is pro ball now.
Yeah.
This is single A ball and single A baseball. They got 30-year-olds in there. I'm not saying we want that because you want to graduate guys, right? But there's going to be certain, like Chris Wanke won the Heisman at what, 28?
Was he 20? Yeah, about 28. Yeah,
I was 25 my senior year.
Right.
So, to your point, if you don't want to go to school but you still want to play ball, we got a spot for you. If you're trying to go to a bigger school, we got a spot for you. If you want to do welding and you need free welding school, we got a spot for you.
Yeah.
How about trucking? We got a spot for you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. Plus, if you figure this, personal training in football, you talked about that. How about they don't tell you if you want to really get good at soccer, your son needs to go to 3 days a week to a personal trainer. That's a fact.
Yeah.
We are offering personal training as football coaches. It's basically a walk-on. When you go to Utah State or BYU or Utah, if you used to walk on, that's an expensive amount of money you're paying to play football.
Yeah, for sure.
Like $50,000 a year to play football.
100%.
It's not that costier.
Well, and let me just say this. For anybody who's listening who might be a little skeptical, the one thing that wins in sport is talent. Period. End of story. Okay? So if you have or if you know of a family that has a young man, if you're listening and you know a family that has a young man that for whatever reason didn't get the exposure to his high school or college coach, couldn't make grades, didn't have tuition, if you take advantage of what Trevor's offering, all it takes is one practice where Morgan Scally shows up and says, wait, who is that?
That's it.
And then guess what they do, Trevor? They figure it out. If you have the talent, they will figure out how to get you into the University of Utah.
Jordan Cameron, you remember him?
Sure. Yeah.
He just shows up at SC. I want to play, and now he's made $30 million. Now that's a one-off story, but there's a lot of those stories, man. I found a guy at Beto's one time.
Beto's?
When I was playing, you can ask Kalani Sataki. It was his cousin. I didn't know it.
Okay.
I seen this big Tongan cat in there eating burritos. I had about 3 of them. I said, hey, dude, we could use you on the scout O-line, all right? And so I shot him, showed up. That was when I was a sophomore in college.
Yeah.
They called him Beto's, and he stuck it out for a while.
Yeah.
But you will find him anywhere. I found a guy at church, okay? 6'7", 320.
Wow.
Played 2 years of community college basketball. He's my starting left tackle.
There you go.
Okay, I found a guy at the nightclub, all right? Big old Mexican dude playing receiver at some junior college. He's playing defensive end for us. Great guy.
Yeah.
So we'll find him anywhere, okay? And we've also found kids at other schools. So it's not just backyard boogie. I'm saying, to your point, if I see some talent, right, I'm going to ask a question. Hey, are you available?
Right.
Because that's what the name of the game is. It's the currency of this game.
Yeah.
If you have talent, you have a say.
Always. I mean, look, I could go on and on about stories of, random NBA people going to street ball games at Rucker Park or in New York and saying, wait, who's that kid?
That's it.
And suddenly he's got a college scholarship and suddenly he has a chance to play pro ball. This is not linear. Life is not a straight line. There's not one way to make this happen, which is why the model is pretty intriguing. Let's use your upcoming scrimmage to Snow College, okay?
And that's actually a real game, okay?
Right.
The scrimmage is tomorrow with the Utes. I probably cross those up.
But but let's go to the game that you're playing against Snow.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe your goal is Utah or BYU or D1 or P4, but Snow's a great conduit to that. I mean, how many great Snow College players or Rick's College players went on to play at BYU and Utah State?
They've been the lifeblood.
Right.
They've been the lifeblood of those two programs.
So if you can get with the Islanders and they're playing against Snow and the head coach of Snow sees that one kid and is like, what's his deal? Suddenly you have a chance to play college football. And then you'll be exposed to even a bigger audience.
And Snow is playing the same teams we are. We're actually playing better teams than Snow because at our level, we're playing Laverne College, Redlands University. Now, I say better. Let me rephrase that. They're D2 and D3. And on the hierarchy, they should be better. You know how that goes. Some of these powerhouse JCs could beat small D1s.
Sure.
Enough player. But to your point, We have junior college football in Salt Lake in Utah County. It's in Harriman.
Yeah.
It's at RSL's indoor. You know where that's at. Your family built the dang place.
Mm-hmm.
So we're you guys are taxing that. Well, they're taxing us, but it's a good deal. Okay.
Yeah,
so the key is this: if you want to play ball and you have some talent, you don't have to go to Ephraim.
Mm-hmm.
How's that sound?
Yeah. I've been Ephraim.
Okay, so
not the spot.
I stopped and I left.
Yeah,
right?
not the spot.
It's a great place. Senny's from Ephraim. Okay, he was running a cattle ranch out. Okay, so to each their own, but you don't have to go there. Whatever. Sure. So Salt Lake in Utah County, they're two of the most growing places in the world.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Provo has an airport that's flying direct to D.C.
Yep.
You wouldn't have thought that 20 years ago.
Not at all.
And so we're in the spot now where we're national, dude. And if we join this Big Ten, one of these two schools are going to be in the Big Ten soon. I think you're right about that.
And another way to look at this, I'm sure we've all watched the documentary Last Chance U, where either a football program or a basketball program from a small JUCO in Mississippi or whatever has 3 or 4 dudes that are good enough to play at Bama, and some have gone on to play in the pros, but they just didn't have the same access that some of the other kids had. Kind of another way to look at it.
I think Marshawn Lynch. I saw a clip of him yesterday. He stiff armed a guy on the sideline with his camera. Okay, he was protecting his camera.
That's right. Yeah.
Junior college.
Yeah.
Okay, he's from near Richmond, I think, in Oakland. But I mean, there's so many guys, and I could just Shaky Smithson, All American, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Terrence Kane. I mean, there's just so many guys throughout the years. Garrett Bowles.
Aaron Rodgers started at a community
Butte
college. Man. Yeah.
So everybody knows that. We don't need to belabor that point. It's just now it's here.
Yeah.
And now we have a game Saturday, August 23rd. There's no other game. We're going to have live DJ.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have food trucks. Right? This is a 12 to 10 event. Bring your kids. And it's football on a Saturday, dude. You're going to see some of these local Joes, right? And the next guy's up. Really, you're going to be. I mean, this is like baseball now, guys. They're on the East Coast. You know what they talk they talk baseball in spring.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees and I lived in. They're talking. I mean, what's the name of those two guys, Francesca and the other guy? They're talking spring training.
Mike and the Mad Dog. Yeah,
they're talking Double-A ball.
Sure,
you know, and what was the movie with Richard Pryor? Okay, the baseball team out there.
Oh,
come on, Porter. Suck the Bulls, right? Whatever it was, but they're talking the developmental players, and so that's where this thing's at now, especially with all the gambling, right? This
for
is
sure, yeah.
It's starting to be a thing now where it's who's the next up, right? People are making their spreads and doing all that stuff. So we're in the action now. Our goal is to send out 2 or 3 players, and we want to send as many as we can to Utah and BYU or any school, but those 2 first.
UtahIslanders.com. Hey, before I set you loose, Chris Camerati was in studio yesterday from The Athletic. He wrote a piece. Did you know Greg Newman? Did you know Greg Newman?
Knew him very well.
You knew him very well.
Great friends.
Oh, okay.
John Peel, myself, J.J. Williams, Christian Cox, myself. I was a freshman, right? Greg had just graduated.
Okay.
Wasn't going to play pro. I was tight with Greg, dude. Real tight. And I got to tell you, when I read the piece, it resonated.
Yeah.
And something clicked, okay? Something happened. If you read the piece, I don't want to give it all away, but I'll let you expound. But yeah, it was one of those things where when that whole thing happened, we were all just stunned.
Yeah.
Sick and stunned, and I feel for his family.
Let me ask you, did and this is a tough one because I don't want to paint it like anyone gave up on him because obviously he was unwell. At what point did the group that you were friends with, as far as being tied with him, at what point did you feel like it was the point of, because even I almost cried when I read that his parents brought him Christmas dinner in his tent when he was living in a tent in California. So even his family at some point was kind of like, there's really nothing we could do. At what point did it feel like, yeah, the Greg that we knew is no longer the Greg that we knew?
I saw him probably my senior year. I don't know. We saw him somewhere, and he was a little bit off. Off meaning he wasn't what he was. And I called I said, hey, have you talked to Greg? I don't remember who I called, and it was one of those 5 people I mentioned. And they kind of said, yeah, he just seems a little off. But just to bring it back, as you said that, I can't help but think, what if we had this alumni association better
for sure?
Can you imagine?
For sure.
If we had to reach out, and I take responsibility, we should have got it done earlier. And you bring this up, right? And I don't know, it just makes me think, right? We don't want to have a repeat of that.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned what we all need to start meeting, right? We need to start figuring some things out. But players, again, I talked about healthcare, right? Having some healthcare, right, where we can afford to take care of a guy like that.
Yeah.
Not all of us are going pro, man.
Right.
And even some of those who go pro, you don't get insurance unless you play 3 years. And even then, my insurance is up, man. I got 20 years. I'm on my own.
Yeah.
Until my pension kicks in.
Yep.
And so you start thinking about guys like Newman. Okay. I call him Newman. Okay. Yeah, it makes me sick.
Yeah.
And I wish that this should have been done earlier. So
Yeah.
all you ex-players who are listening, or if please send this message out. Please contact Pablo Cano or Adam Fry at the University of Utah, Jesse Boone, Nate Borchard. We need you to register with us. Spence brings up a great point. We can't let this happen, and we got to take care of each other.
Love it, man. Hey, great to see you. Whatever you need, you know you got a home here, okay? All right, Trevor Riley, go to UtahIslanders.com and support this new project. We'll catch a break, and we'll bring in Aaron Falk from the Salt Lake Tribune on the other side right here on ESPN 700.
I was terrified. So thrilled to see John Paul walk through the door.
Did you have any guesses when I said I have a surprise for you?
I honestly don't want to say any of the things that I thought about because I don't want you to know them.
Now I'm just more curious. All right, so that was Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love. And we're going to start with the topic as far as why we're playing that. I was taken to task and summarily really knocked on by a texter earlier today that said he's sick of me cracking on other people's taste in music. So my question to both of you right out of the gates, is there such a is there such a thing as simply good music, or is it discretion and it's up to the individual? I feel like there has to be a definition of what good music is.
I think there is a line to be drawn. I think there is probably good music in all genres that exist, more or less.
Okay.
But I think that not every song is good, even if somebody likes it. I do think there has to be a standard, but I think there is good music within every genre. And maybe, country isn't your thing. A lot of stomp clap discourse on Twitter this week. Maybe that's not your thing.
Okay.
But there is good music, I think, within all of these genres. Just there's a line.
Popularity does not equal good, and you guys know I'm a stomp clap guy. That's not a surprise. John Paul.
Oh me, oh my.
John Paul, same question. Is there like a definition, a bottom line, okay, this is good, or is it up to the individual's discretion?
Life principle, I don't judge. So there is no good, there is no bad. It's all slop. We're all piggies in the pen.
Okay.
We're all enjoying the same thing. It doesn't matter what you think is good. Is somebody else's trash. So, it really doesn't matter what you like, what you don't like. It's all the same right now.
Okay.
It really is.
And maybe for the ecosystem to work, you need the bottom feeders to eat your trash.
Yes, you do.
Circle of life.
Okay. See, I forget that John Paul is the only empath in the studio right now.
That's a fact.
It's good to be reminded.
No takes, just
vibes.
Yeah.
No takes, just vibes. It's good to be reminded. JP, let's you sat down with Will recently for a wide-ranging conversation. Let's do a little off-season
with a
jazz.
cup of tea.
Let's do a little off-season jazz as my guy, the minivan, is rolling back into Salt Lake City.
Right.
Couple second-rounders to boot. Boston shedding some salary. What's the latest over in Jazzland these days?
Well, it is the addition of the minivan.
Indeed.
He's back. A little older, a little wiser, but a certain proof of concept that things can work out even if you have a limited athletic skill set. So I think if you're looking for an adult in the room and the pup's not raising the pups,
Indeed,
he's the type of guy that can help that out. But like as tongue-in-cheek as that is, George being proof that you don't have to be a jump out the gym type of athlete to make it in the NBA and make a lot of money in this league. Him providing a pro's example helps out. I don't think that he'll be figuring into late game situations and whatever, but like the deal about this team is that it's young and the goal is clear. It's developing the young players, and they've got 3 young guys in the latest draft who all have some pretty good potential.
Yeah, and I equated it like at the end of Jared Dudley's career, he was bad at basketball, but he always found jobs because coaches like that guy, he'll show up on time, he's a pro, he'll help our young players play. To JP's point, Aaron, it's not like maybe they went from 15 to 17 wins. Nobody gives a rip. And it's also kind of a feel-good story because George was the type of guy that everybody loved no matter what, and, solid player, whatever, but the minivan makes his return. What do you think?
Love it. Always love a homecoming. However, looking forward to the discourse when George Niang gets a minute that someone believes should have gone to a young player, and the meltdown begins. I mean, a player that everyone, really liked, loved at one point in his career here, and then all of a sudden it's just like, we're on to the next.
Yeah.
That will happen, but I think it's a good thing for him.
Yeah, go ahead, JP.
I think the thing to understand for fans, for people who are watching the team, the young players literally can't play 48 minutes. It's impossible for them to play an entire game. And I get it. You want to see them get every single opportunity to play on the floor. They will get plenty of time. It will work itself out once they're out on the floor and they prove themselves that they can be NBA contributors.
I need to see what Ace Bailey does down 20 in the third quarter in a February basketball game.
George can't play.
It's such a good point.
He can't play.
Why is Yusuf Nurkic in the game? Put Walker back in. That will definitely happen with the blogosphere. Tell me, after sitting down with Will, because look, it is a bit of a new approach, and it's one that I applaud. I actually like that Austin kind of came in and was like, all right, we can't get anything for Clarkson, gone. We'll turn Sexton into an asset. Collins has to go. I don't know if they were too stubborn about their asking price before. I think Ace has a lot of potential, but Will now has a roster that is full of mostly young players. After sitting down with him, where's his head coming into the season?
I think it's where it's been over the last couple of years, post-trade deadlines, post all the moves that they made, where he's ready to keep these guys accountable and continue to do the thing where it's, if you don't pass, you don't play hard and pass, that type of high standards to keep. You keep on saying that I sat down with him. I mean, really, he was interviewing me. It was the other way around. If you watch the piece.
Well, I saw the clip where you asked him about wearing a suit.
So he doesn't ask me anything thing at the end, and they only cut that in his interview segment of me.
Oh, bummer.
Which tells you his interview skills.
Now I got to go back and watch it.
I'm the one that had the most compelling question.
What was the best question he asked you?
I don't know. He's not at my level.
Well, we know that, John Paul.
Yeah.
You don't have to make that obvious. Everybody knows that.
We talked about, why I got into this. Who are the people who I liked going into sports media?
Ooh.
I gave up a lot of plaudits to plenty of people. You didn't make the cut.
I didn't make the cut.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
But Dan Patrick did.
Kind of persona non grata over there anyway. I understand why you took the approach.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have been a sensitive subject.
Did Aaron make the cut?
He did not make the cut.
I can live with that. I like to be in the background. I like to, just orchestrate from off, producer off camera.
So I do find it, on a serious note, I find the Will angle interesting here because I don't know that there's anybody that doesn't think he's the guy. I haven't heard anybody say that he's not the guy. Coaches are judged off their win-loss record. He's won 34% of his games. Now, I think anybody with the Jazz understands the deal, but they're probably, if we're honest, not close to winning any more games for the next few years, maybe 3 or 4. I mean, he gets his extension. He has his safety blanket. He's not going anywhere. But I do have to wonder, for a guy that seems to be such a competitor, how it lands with him that he just doesn't have the tools when he goes into a gym to compete with other coaches. I mean, it could be 6 or 7 years of winning 32, 33% of your games, if not less than that, and that goes on your permanent record. Aaron, I wonder how that lands with a guy that seems to be really, really competitive.
Well, obviously, John Paul knows him much, much better. I've had very brief interactions with Will, if at all. But, I mean, it does seem like there is, I would think, a cutoff for that. And, here's a really young guy who maybe wasn't going to get this opportunity as early as he got it. Maybe he was, but here he is, and he's willing to do the right thing for the franchise and the right thing for ownership, and that carries you a long way. And to do the right thing in a difficult circumstance. But I do have to wonder, at some point, does that wear off? And you become a little bit more jaded to your situation. Mm-hmm. But so far, so good, and he's been well taken care of. And in the NBA, I mean, there are guys that win games that don't keep their jobs. So
win championships and coaches of the year, and they're fired the next year. Yeah, that's fair. The other, Mark Lowry today had 48 points in 25 minutes at Eurobasket, and maybe we've all forgotten how awesome he is because he didn't play a ton last year, even when he was healthy. I also wonder, John Paul, for a guy like Markkanen, again, max contract, you got paid, fine, all that stuff. Does it get frustrating when you don't have other grown-ups in the locker room outside of our guy Minivan? Because year one, when he had Mike here and he had Olynyk here, I mean, that's when he was an all-star. And now, coming off the heels of a season last year where he was playing with a lot of young kids, or even more young kids in that locker room, I wonder how that lands with Markkanen.
I think he also knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a blind conversation between him and ownership, him in the front office, him and the coaching staff with what he signed up for last year with his extension And when he signed the extension, guaranteeing him the full year of knowing what he was getting into, because same plan last year that is heading into this year, which is the development, the young players, making sure that they get every opportunity. So it's not as if he doesn't know what's going, and it's understandable for him to be frustrated at times about the results that are going on. But he has to take solace in the fact that he has a coach that absolutely knows how best to utilize him. He's played his best basketball as a professional under this coach, and a guy who absolutely understands offensive basketball in the way that the best way to utilize Lauri Markkanen is Will Hardy right now, and he gets that.
Yeah, I wonder what it's going to look like this year, because I hope they let him play big minutes. He's fun to watch. He's one of the few players on the roster that we know of. I mean, we'll see what Ace can do, and I really like the Walter Clayton Jr. kid. But Aaron, please illuminate us what the Jazz have in common with the effects of bad deodorant.
You know what? Can we go to the next question?
All right. Real quick, there was the Action Network did a survey that indicates there's a large faction of Jazz fans right now that are a little bit disappointed with the price hikes juxtaposed to lack of results.
I think that's across the sports landscape.
Sure it is. Yeah.
It is more corporate, more expensive to do anything in, I don't care what level you're watching. If you're watching this Little League game, Utah, Nevada, probably more expensive to attend than it was a year ago. Like it feels like people are getting pinched, and there is frustration, no doubt. Throw that in with a team that obviously isn't competitive and intentionally competitive for quite a while, and there's going to be some frustration.
And I've always said this, and I believe this to be true, that we have a really smart basketball market. We've had a lot of good college basketball over the years, dating all the way back to the 60s and 70s, and the Jazz were very competitive for the better part of 30 years. And, John Paul, I'll go to you on this. I just think if the direction is crystallized, fans get it. I don't think anybody's under any sort of premonition that they would be able to go out and sign Paul George last year or make this massive move to bring in Durant, which wouldn't have made sense anyway. I think the direction under Austin has been a little crystallized, and I think if you're a smart basketball fan, you understand the deal. You know what time it is.
Absolutely. You know what time it is, and you know the moves of getting off of Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, replenishing the second-round picks with the George Niang move, seeing what they did at the trade deadline even before Austin in consolidating a couple of lesser firsts for a pretty good 2031 Phoenix Suns first, making sure that you're giving yourself every opportunity for big swings in the future while also keeping your powder dry and the books clean for next year in a possibility of seeing other players come in. The thing about this team and the direction that they've gone post Donovan, post Rudy, is nobody's under any airs that this is a playoff team. They know that this is about youth. It's about growing with Will Hardy. It's about figuring out who are guys who eventually will be on the next great Jazz team. And those are the players that will stick around, the people who you invest in, getting that contract extension, and players like Walker Kessler, who had an excellent year 3 after a little bit of the sophomore slump, in seeing him accept the challenge from Will and really respond. So those are the things that people understand and get, and I understand the frustration. I understand that there's a lot of consternation over ticket prices, whatever, but the idea is clear, the path everybody knows, and there's alignment from ownership on down.
Let me ask you this, John Paul. So training camp, we're going to blink. It's going to be here. It's 5-6 weeks away. Which players have you seen so far? Like, who has stuck around? Obviously, they all go to certain places to work out in the offseason, take some time off. But how many guys have you seen here? Are there offseason workouts going on right now?
Yeah, there are touch points all over the place with the young players. Everybody who's had youth. Keontae's been in. Isaiah Collier's has been in. He's back home. But Walker, you see every once in a while come back into market. And the group of players that in their draft classes, they've gotten a really good foundation and and just camaraderie amongst each other. Kyle Filipowski's in there as well with his group of Cody and Isaiah. They have these little clusters around their draft classes that is really cool to see, because they all know that this is kind of special, that we're all being allowed to grow together. We're getting the college experience that maybe we didn't get because we were one and dones, or for Kyle it was a two and done. But still, you're allowed to almost have a college atmosphere where everybody's young, we're around the same age. It's not like Kyle Filipowski or Isaiah Collier is taking time away to spend with the kids. No, they want to play video games. They want to have the same interests as their peers.
I was going to say, I was trying to think, does this feel like 2013 when people were excited about, core 4 or whatever, your 5, and maybe you sort of knew what you had in Gordon Hayward and you were looking for these other guys? It feels kind of like that in some way, but even younger. Like I'm with you. I mean, Lowry aside, like there's no Marvin Williams, there's no Richard Jefferson,
Andres Biedrins.
Right. Like this feels way younger to me.
Yeah. Well, it is, right?
I mean, Ace Bailey is the ultimate example of that. He's 18 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Rutgers to see him and Dylan Harper, because I'm a boots on the ground.
I know you are. We all know you are, John Paul.
So I was pounding the pavement like Adam Sandler in Hustle, and I mean the best Adam Sandler movie out there
it's
right
in
now.
the conversation.
On Netflix, that's
right
for
now,
sure.
for sure.
That's for sure.
There's no doubt.
And first person I see is Ace Bailey on a scooter, riding around campus, enjoying everything that college basketball is all about. Enjoying college, enjoying the college experience.
Electric or acoustic?
It was
Good
electric.
question.
It was electric.
Okay.
It wasn't the acoustic version, but it was a scooter that he's going from his on-campus dorm over to the facility, and he's going just back and forth between the arena, the facility, and his dorm. That's what he does.
No, it's funny because I think, and I'm guilty of this too, oftentimes we'll forget how young these players are. I can remember the night after Donovan, I think it was the Pelicans when Donovan dropped his 40 as a rookie. I was going home from the game, and I stopped at Maverick. And Donovan's in there with just some dude that he lived with at Fourth West, and he's getting some candy. And I walk up to him and I'm like, "Hey, congrats, man. That was awesome. What do you do tonight?" And he's like, "We're going to play Call of Duty. We're just going home to play." And this was Donovan Mitchell as a rookie. He wasn't 18, but what are you, 20? They're just going home to play some video games, put on the jacks, and eat some Snickers ice cream bars. I think we forget how young they are, really, truly, because we watch them play and we believe that they're grown men. These are young people. It's going to take some time.
Can't understand the Zoomers,
Are you calling me a boomer? Indirectly, I feel like you are.
No.
Okay.
You got it. You still got your finger on the pulse.
I'm doing my best. I have a young son that keeps me up to date. He's about to turn 24. Before we catch a break, I apologize in advance. Ali Sentner.
Oh.
Yeah.
I knew this would come up.
Well, I mean, we've got a minute or so. We're not going to belabor the point. I know this is your Luka trade.
Yeah.
She could be the starting 9 for the national team next year. And the Royals, the first iteration of the Royals, 10,000 plus fans, multiple World Cup stars, second in NWSL in attendance. You're the voice. What's happening over there?
It was definitely a shocking trade, and it hit me when you see that it happens, that they're getting $600,000 across 3 years for Ali Sentner, who definitely deserves to make that World Cup roster come up. But in the aftermath, seeing them get a 1-1 draw at Orlando, who's the defending champions in the entire league, and seeing them, they're playing tonight. You can always get your tickets, utahroyals.com. KC tonight at 8 o'clock at America First Field.
There you go.
But when you talk to people around the club and you hear exactly the plans of what they want to do post Ali Sentner trade, they say they want to invest in the club and trying to bring in people around what they already have, which right now can only go up. They're 14th place in the entire table. So the hope is that $600,000 will be spread across a couple of players rather than just going to one, and hoping that helps the depth for this team. But it definitely was a gut punch to lose one of the brightest young players in all of American women's soccer. I said on this very show, the best number 9 in the state, and it hits you once you see her not on the team. But hoping that it turns into a little bit more in trying to find that foundation in year 2 of an expansion franchise.
So speaking of investment in soccer, Aaron, the Millers open up the checkbook. Kurt Schmidt cooking. We've got a little Rowan Cruz. We saw the debut the other night, 30 minutes in Leagues Cup, in Victor Olatunji. So 2 players that can help Pablo in the attack. Unbeaten in 9 of 10. Trey will let you know they've gone from 13th to 8th in the West. With these additions, are we going to see playoff soccer in Sandy, Utah?
It feels like it right now. I mean, I think that maybe out of sheer necessity and, with the Anelli injury, shout out Nate Bench,
Indeed.
That midfield, I mean, to see how Ruiz has come on and Ojeda, and they figured some things out, and now you put some talent up top because, Peel, not going to cut it. Agata had some moments, but again, probably not top-end talent.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel like they have found something on the back end, and now if you can just put some pieces up top that, they should be able to get into a playoff that wide.
Royals in action tonight. RSL back in action on Sunday against New York.
Are the Royals playing?
Kansas City Current and Ali Sentnor.
Ali's back in town.
Ali is back in town.
Wow. Juicy matchup then.
The storylines write themselves.
They do. And so apparently we cannot have a Fur to Friday because you're working tonight.
That's right.
Okay. Aaron Falk, John Paul Chunga, JP live in studio. Like any good coach, it's time to update the game plan for a healthy green lawn. As the hot weather continues this month, make sure you're using IFA Step 3 Summer Lawn Food for healthy turf that stays green in every season. IFA Step 3 Lawn Food, it's the ultimate lawn owner power move at IFA. Coming up next, John Paul breaks down Utah's offensive line. So keep it here on ESPN 700. All right. So, as somebody that only gets tweets sent to him, you'll have to illuminate me as to what this stomp clap debate was going on social media, because this is a great example of a stomp and clap song that's also very Edward Sharp, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, what was the hullabaloo?
I think it just a lot of young people saying this is the worst song ever written. Yeah. Just it encapsulates a period and a feeling that they find, disingenuous and gross, and they hate it.
Disingenuous and gross?
They also hate "We Are Young" by Fun. They hate they hate a lot of things. The young people.
These are Gen Zs? Is that what it is? Like,
I'm not going to argue with 17-year-olds on X,
there's no reason
on
to.
Twitter,
nor should you.
People who have no life experience. No thanks.
What do they like?
Benson Boone.
Perfect
Which
answer.
will age flawlessly, and no children after them will ever have a problem with Benson Boone doing backflips in a one piece.
Little known Benson Boone fact, LDS.
No longer.
Right, raised.
Went to BYU, Idaho for a minute.
I did not. That's another little known Benson Boone.
I feel
fact.
like I think maybe this is a BYU and a BYU Idaho thing, but I would bet you the percentage of people that can just do backflips at those schools is higher than almost anywhere else in the country.
For sure. And if you were raised LDS at all, road shows and such, performing,
1,000%.
singing. My father to this day wishes we had some family band, but none of us had the great musical ability that he was hoping we had. So shout out Benson Boone on a Friday. Aaron Falk, JP, John Paul Chunga, the original producer of this program, even though he does not acknowledge it when he's asked about it anymore. All right, Aaron, in about an hour, a young man named Jason Batakiao will be our guest on the program. He covers Utah football for you guys over the Trib. Interesting year for a number of different reasons. And the way I've kind of framed it is the pressure last year was steeped in the fact that everybody thought they were going to win it. I feel like the pressure this year is steeped in the fact that there's a community that's wondering whether or not this program has adjusted to the new normal of college football and what it's going to look like. Because was last year a moment in time, or has the program changed because the sport's changed? So as we approach Utah football 3 weeks from tomorrow, how do you perceive this season is kind of a, landing with the community, wondering what it's going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I see what you're saying. The great can Kyle Whittingham thrive in an NIL era? Which is we're not taking 3 stars and turning them into 4-year players anymore. It's just not how that's going to work. And so can he adapt? I get that. I honestly feel like there's a lot it feels like last year all over again. Like the for whatever reason we've kind of just written this thing off that happened. The expectation is they should compete for a Big 12 title. And so, I mean, I think that there is that pressure again. And then the question is, like, is Devin Dampier power forward good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the pressure is going to come down to the quarterback position. JP, I know you stay locked on to the Utes, even though your head is elsewhere. I'll tell you this, Dane Brugler, my guy from The Athletic, released his top 5 offensive tackles in the NFL draft today. Spencer Fano 2, Caleb Lomu 5. What's your confidence level that this is the best offensive line that Utah football's ever had?
The Big Uglies? The trenches?
Yep.
Where games are won and lost?
I know that this is your bread and butter, so I'm just going to lay out and you break it down.
I think that it's pretty entertaining to watch from afar how Utah fans react to the truck stop conference of the Big 12, how the adjustment of Pac-12 to Big 12 football is. And my entertainment value in the sport, in seeing the local college teams, is how things can shift just on a dime. How last year BYU was on cloud 9 at points with how well that they were playing, and Utah was absolutely in the opposite direction. So, look, this year's going to be pretty interesting because you have a quarterback who absolutely, we don't know if he's power 4 good because he was doing it at a smaller college and at a different level.
Well, and, I understand the nature of being a fan, and, the nature of being a Utah football fan is you've had a generation of a very high standard. But some of the expectations I find extremely unfounded. we don't even know who the wide receivers are going to be. I mean, Coach Witt was asked about it this week. He laid out a couple of names. The Tobias Merriweather kid is 6'5", 200 or whatever, but you look at Devin's passing numbers a year ago, they weren't great. But let's move over here for a second because, JP is talking about like the Pac-12 transition. And for about maybe 15 years, Utah football had the momentum compared to what BYU football was going through because they're independent. There was this weird 6-year period where Chase Hansen, Britton Covey, kids that played in the backyard of BYU Stadium whose family names are on buildings were all playing for Kyle. But I don't know if it's NIL. I think part of it is. I think the other part of it is they're both in the same conference now. It does feel like some of the momentum, if not a lot of the momentum, has shifted about 40 miles down south.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a few things, but to JP's point, it shifts so quickly. I mean, you look back to there was a moment, again, they have momentum. They're rolling trucks out onto the turf at Rice Eccles, and BYU is a poverty school, right? That's the perception. They'll never do it. And then in a very short amount of time, it takes a couple of interested people to rally and to turn things. I mean, look what Texas Tech has done. It takes a lot of money, yes, but it only takes a few people with a lot of money to shift fortune and shift it quickly. So I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of back and forth here as these two rivals, their donor base says, I can't be outdone, or, I think it's going to be back and forth. I think the other thing going for BYU at the moment is that it's big backers on basketball probably free up money for football in a way that Utah does not have at the moment. They're having to split their rev share and figure that out, whereas BYU can come way over the top with basketball, NIL, and then maybe figure out football after that.
What do your metrics say about interest in both BYU and Utah basketball? I mean, hiring Alex Jensen appeared to be a little bit of a shot in the arm. And if we're going to be fair here, we talked about the Jazz raising ticket prices. Utah men's basketball tickets have been shot through the roof as well. And without results anytime recently, that's a tough pill to swallow. But it feels like Alex has infused a little bit of excitement in the market. And what Kevin has built, I always hesitate to say, and JP, this, you're a college hoops guy. It's hard to say that's a Final Four team because it's the nature of that tournament for great teams to be eliminated every year. AJ sprains an ankle, some random upperclassman hits 10 threes, BYU's out in the second round. But on paper, this is the best basketball team they have ever had. I firmly believe that. What sort of interest is college hoops drumming up right now?
BYU has obviously, just a ton more interest. They have won some wins under their belt already. Sweet 16 a year ago, and then a unicorn. Just doesn't happen. Number one recruit in the country ends up in Utah, right? Utah, they've got to win. Yes, Alex Jensen coming back invigorates the fan base a little bit. In terms of what people are going to read or care about or listen to, they got to win. That's as simple as that. You got to win.
It's going to take some time. All right. Before I say you guys loose, JP, let me ask you about Frank, passing to Frank Layden. We lost Frank a couple weeks ago at the age of 93. You're obviously with the Utah Jazz now. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say he's the most important figure in Jazz history. There are other names on that list, Larry Miller, me, others. But anything planned this year for the Jazz to honor the life of Frank Layden?
Yeah, there are things in the works that'll certainly be out in a couple of months, I'm sure, closer to the regular season. There was a special put up on YouTube from Thurl and Craig talking about the impact of Frank because he was such a giant figure in the market, not only for basketball, but for evangelizing this place, because who would have imagined a person from Brooklyn would come here and enjoy it so much to the point that he becomes a mainstay in the community. I'm just glad, just personally, to one, have met him, but two, that the NBA acknowledged him a couple years back. I think it was the Raptors finals where he got the Kirk Gowdy award, and he was able to go out there on the floor. People gave him his flowers, and he was acknowledged as the NBA figure that he was, because a true pioneer of basketball who came to a place that did not have pro hoops at that point. The only place that it had it was the Utah Stars, and eventually they packed up and left because the ABA went and merged with the NBA. But it was him that set the table for the finals runs, for every good memory that Jazz fans have, because of that man, Frank Layden, keeping things together and keeping that franchise afloat in the early years.
Aaron, same question. You were with the Jazz for a while, and I would imagine you had several interactions with Frank. So your thoughts on his life and legacy?
Yeah, got a chance to sit down with him for an interview when JP and I were both working at the Jazz, and so many stories. It takes forever to get into like the work you're going to do for the interview because he wants to tell you everything. And I mean, the thing that comes to my mind right now is just like, outside of maybe a player or maybe a coach along the way, like, were there people that didn't like Frank Layden? Was there a period of sports talk radio that was like, we got to get rid of? I can't imagine it. It's like he's so universally beloved, and Jerry Sloan universally beloved, but obviously would have rubbed some people wrong along the way. This guy, an angel. Like it's really a pure thing to have in this community and in this franchise.
Yeah, no, well said. Great to see you too. Hope you had a great trip a few weeks ago. Hope it was fun.
You didn't make it?
Yeah, all right. So
next time.
Yeah, next time.
I'm going to leave my instant commentary off the air for that one. Have a good call tonight, John Paul.
Merci.
Good to see you, Aaron.
Au revoir.
Our Aaron Falk, JP Chunga, brought to you today by our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Got lots going on: bills, work, family, friends, vacation, kids, and all that. Utah football, Jazz basketball, Mammoth hockey, all on the horizon. So get yourself in game day shape with Game Day Men's Health. If you gain a little weight, you can burn it off and get super lean with peptide therapies. Attack that belly fat from all the drinks and vacation feasting you've been doing with their semaglutide and other fat-burning remedies. Maybe some of you don't want to talk about this, but maybe your libido is slipping and you've noticed your energy levels are down. Get it taken care of with Game Day Men's Health and their T-Shot that will amp things up for you in the bedroom and in life. Here's the deal. If you mention ESPN, they're going to offer 50% off your first-year membership. So check them out today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com here in Utah. Paul Pugmire on the other side of 5 o'clock to talk some FedEx Championship. Then Jason Batacchio from the Trib. We'll say goodnight at 6 on a Friday right here on ESPN 700. All right, special thanks to Aaron Falk and JP, John Paul Chunga. JP, the original producer of this program. Nearly 6 years ago, we turned 6 next week, which is pretty exciting. Both of them live in studio, so appreciate their time. Trevor Riley stopped by earlier. We'll kind of reset what Trevor has going on. We have Paul Pugmire for a little golf. The Tour Championship rolls along. Then Jason Batacchio covers the University of Utah for the Salt Lake Tribune. But joining me in studio once again is my friend Jamie from Checketts Brewing. Jamie, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you. So let's start with what you brought me today, this Tropical Haze IPA. Is this a new creation of yours over there at Checketts?
We make a rendition every year. This is our newest rendition, and it is the newest one to be released in the grocery store.
Okay, tell us about it. So, I mean, the name would indicate it's an IPA that tastes tropical. Is that fair?
Yes, and it's also hazy, based on the haze part of the name.
There we go. So what sort of tropical flavors are we in for here today?
A lot of mango, pineapple, those kind of tropical vibes.
Do you get good reaction to the fruity beers? I feel like it's like you either love it or you hate it.
Huge reaction, yeah. This one's been very popular.
Most people like it.
Mm-hmm.
What's more popular, the Tropical Haze IPA or the pickle beer that you brought in last week?
In the tap room or the can shop?
Let's say tap room.
Pickle beer.
Can shop tropical?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the other beer you brought in?
The Chinchillin Cerveza.
Okay, what's that one about?
It is a traditional light Mexican lager.
So
like a Pacifico or
like a
Corona.
Pacifico. Okay, like a Pacifico. Okay, so Checketts Brewing, you have one location for now.
Mm-hmm.
608 West, 700 South, here in Salt Lake. Head on down. Let's hone in on that one for a moment. Got a storefront, right, where people can come in and buy cans. Then you've got basically a bar in the back. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a tavern with a full liquor license. We have a pinball room, so we host a lot of pinball tournaments.
Nice.
And we also rent out the brewery house for events.
And more information at checkettsbrewing.com.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have undertaken quite a project. A lot of people excited for the Sugar House right now. If you've not been there recently, it's under a tiny bit of construction.
Just a little bit.
But when that thing is done, I think it's going to be great, and you guys are going to be a part of it. Let's hear the progress for the Sugar House location.
We are weeks away from opening. We are so close to getting this thing open.
Okay. Is it going to be similar to your spot downtown, or is it going to be pretty different?
Different. It's going to be a full bar. It's not going to be a production facility, and it's going to be a little bit bougier.
Bougier?
Mm-hmm.
Including like maybe a food menu of some sort?
Eventually, yes, we'll have some food, but it's going to be higher-end cocktails, higher-end spirits, higher-end wines, things like that.
Very nice. What is the best and worst part of this process of opening up a new place?
The best part is that I get to be a part of this awesome project and help build out this thing. The worst part is being a part of this project and building out this thing.
Is it similar to, I mean, it's not entirely similar to building a home, but if anyone's ever built a home or renovated a home, you know that time frames are just thrown out the window, right?
Yes, and we don't own the building, so a lot of it was waiting on a landlord that unfortunately took our money and ran.
Oh, fun.
So it took a long time to get foreclosure and a repossession and a new buyer, a new landlord, and to start the process all over again.
But we are making progress, and we're getting close to opening the spot.
Getting very, very close.
Okay, do you have an address for us?
1533 South, 1100 East.
Ooh.
Just north of Finn's.
Prime location.
Very, very great location. We have neighbors stopping by daily.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, always great to see you. Thank you for the Tropical Haze IPA. I shall enjoy this, and we will see you soon.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Our friend Jamie from Checketts Brewing. Again, the location that's open now is 608 West, 700 South. They are working on their Sugar House location that will be open in a matter of weeks. So definitely check them out. Support our good friends at Checketts Brewing. All right, we got 2 hours down. We've got 2 hours to go on this Friday afternoon. We'll switch gears and do a little golf with Paul Pugmire coming up next, then some Utah football with Jason Batacchio. Get into the 5 o'clock hour of the program on this Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Go celebrate at Checketts right here on ESPN 700. championship season in the world of professional golf on the PGA Tour. We find ourselves at TPC Southwind, not literally. I'm in Salt Lake in the studio in Memphis, Tennessee, where Tommy Fleetwood is looking for his first career win on the PGA Tour after going low the first two rounds, 63-64. Minus 13, your leader in the clubhouse. Let's talk some golf with our next guest, our buddy Paul Pugmire. You can hear him every Saturday morning talking golf on the radio. Mr. Pugmire, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you, Spence.
Appreciate the time today. So let's start with the format. Okay, so what should our listeners know about where we're at in a multi-tiered phase? How many golfers advance onto the championship? What's at stake here at the FedEx St. Jude Championship?
Sure. There's a whole just a train load of money. That's the most thing, the most biggest thing that's at stake, and we can talk in a minute whether that matters to fans of the game or not. But it is the Tour Championship that they are playing their way into, and the playoffs are a 3-week progression. Starts with the top 100 players on the FedEx points. They keep their card for the next year, but it's the top 70 who played their way into this event, the FedEx that's played in Memphis, as you say. So only the top 70 are there. After this week, they will cut it down to the top 50 in points, not the top 50 finishers this week, but the top 50 in points for the whole season. And they will move on to a course near Baltimore for the BMW Championship. And then following that tournament next week, the top 30, again in points, will make it to Eastlake in Atlanta for the Tour Championship. And then once you get to the Tour Championship at Eastlake, then it is just where do you finish that week? And the winner of the Tour Championship at Eastlake will win the FedEx Cup. And this is a playoff system that has undergone many iterations and many format changes. They are trying to get it right, and we can talk if you want about how close they are or not, but that's where they are as of this year.
I do want to talk about whether or not they're close to getting it right, but before we do that, Paul, you said the top 70 golfers are in this tournament. That is not the case, my friend. The top 69 golfers are in this tournament as Rory McIlroy has elected to sit. Now, I did not know this. This has happened before. I believe Tiger and Jim Furyk elected to tap out because they were in a good position as far as points to play in the championship. I think there was the Malnati kid, Peter Malnati, and Jordan Spieth were asked about this, and it's not just what they said, it's how they said it. It doesn't seem like it's sitting well, and Rory could use a little goodwill. I know he's obviously had an amazing year because he completed the career Grand Slam, but he's also acted like a baby at times when it's come to his media obligations and such. What do you make of Rory sitting out?
Well, he earned it, and he's certainly within his right, given this format, to do it. And you're right. It is the top 69. The top 70 got invitations. How's that? But Rory very clearly had the right, the ability to do this because he sits at number 2 in the points, and the math is pretty clear and straightforward. He will move on to Eastlake regardless because he has enough points from the season so far. I think it is all kinds of crazy town that they can't get the playoffs right. Look, Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, the NCAA, you and me and everybody listening, we all know what a playoff is. We all know how they work and how they don't. The only people who don't seem to understand this are the PGA Tour. And they can't quite figure out how to just have win and move on. Make the top 50 on that week, and you move to the next. Make the top 30 that week, and you move to the next. It's staggering to me that they don't seem to be able to figure it out. it's pretty self-evident why they're doing it that way. They're trying to assure that the big sponsors at the end of the year get the big name players. They're trying to assure that the big name players make it to East Lake. But that's the same as Major League Baseball trying to assure that it is a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, or the NBA trying to assure that it is a Celtics-Lakers NBA Finals. I love it, and I'm interested, and I watch when Milwaukee's in the NBA Finals. I don't understand why the PGA Tour can't figure that out, but that's where we are. And the way to fix this is so simple and obvious. Ask Virginia if losing in the first round of the NCAA playoffs matters when you go in as a number 1 seed. You show up to the first game or else you don't move on. And that's the very simple fix. You just tell Roy and everybody else, you made the playoffs, you want to get to the end of the playoffs, you have to play the playoffs. Simple, fixed, done.
I tend to agree without having the knowledge you do. Let me ask you this. You referenced the money that's on the table, which is just stupid money. And obviously,
It is.
you know, when you're playing for that kind of purse, it's going to be important for golfers to participate. But does the FedEx Cup hold any other intrigue outside of cash? Like, is it a coveted trophy? Is it I mean, I know it's a weird thing to say because it's the FedEx Cup, but does it have the same appeal as like winning a major other than the money that you make?
Great question, and it is a totally valid and active question. And the simple answer is no, it doesn't. I mean, ask anybody, ask yourself, would you rather win a major or the FedEx Cup? Take a major all day, every day. Now, do you want to win a FedEx Cup? Heck yeah, it's a cool thing. And the money, not just take the money out of the equation. Saying you're a FedEx Cup champion, it means that you're the season-long winner. You won the season. That's a thing. That's a big deal. I personally think it would be a bigger thing and a bigger deal if the tour would have made it real playoffs from the beginning, and the players and the fans and everybody knows you win that thing. That means you got through the playoffs. That means that, I mean, go back to, for heaven's sakes, when the Giants kept the Patriots from having the perfect season, right? The Patriots had this great year, one of the best ever. Super Bowl champs were the Giants, thank you. And that's the way playoffs should work. And I think everybody would love it.
And this might be a dumb question, but I have no problem asking dumb questions. I made a career out of it. After the Tour Championship, which ends on the 24th, now this year's different because we have the Ryder Cup at Bethpage in September. But once this series ends, FedEx, BMW Tour Championship, do most of the big dogs just take the rest of the year off, or do they pick and choose maybe one tournament here, one tournament there? How does that work?
Oh, they totally take the rest of the year off, and that's by design. And the salient number is 50. If you're in the top 50 as of the end of the playoffs, you have assured that you are in the elevated events for next year, and you have assured that you are in all of the majors for next year, and the players as well. So you're in every big tournament if you're in the top 50. The FedEx Fall Series, a series of 7 tournaments that include the Bank of Utah Championship at Black Desert in Utah. That's part of the Fall Series. Those 7 tournaments are used to determine the final standing for the top 100, those people who get a tour card for next year. So it really, really matters to those players who are 51 through 150 as they try to jockey for position, to have a card, to have their job for the next year. And it's really interesting. It's compelling human drama. It's really good golf, but it isn't brand name golf, if you will. It isn't the top shelf players. Those are all in the top 50, and they will generally, in most every case, skip the Fall Series. There's a couple of exceptions to that. A couple of years ago, Sahith Theegala, who was in the top 50, played in one of the fall series events that was at Silverado in Napa, California, because they had helped him get started in his career, and he did it as a personal thank you to the tournament organizers. But it's the exception, not the rule.
So you alluded to why I asked you the question, which is to move over to this PGA tournament that we have in our state, as it is it's a new sponsorship. It is the Bank of Utah Championship. Last year was the Black Desert Championship. I'm not knocking on any of these players. Matt McCarty's a stick. He won. Lucas Glover's a major champion. Harris English is a name that people know, and I could keep going down the list. Like, there were fine players here last year, but none of the big dogs made their way. My guy Nick Taylor in the field. Shout out Nick Taylor. So based off of what we saw last year and based off of how you just explained what happens after the Tour Championship ends, what's a reasonable expectation for the field this year down at Black Desert?
Well, look at the FedEx Cup standings and start at 50 and go down from there. And immediately there's a great name that jumps off the page at all of us, and that's Tony Finau, who is oddly outside of the top 50 right now. He's currently sitting at number 60. Now, he could play his way in if he has a really strong weekend in Memphis starting tomorrow, or if he has a really good week up in Baltimore. He could play his way into the top 50, but right now he sits at 60. And so then the question becomes, does he play in the local tournament and try to play his way into the top 50? I don't know, but it'll be fun to see, and I hope he does. Ricky Fowler at number 58 is in the same situation. I want to see Ricky Fowler play, and so he would certainly get that kind of buzz. He would make that kind of buzz happen. Former U.S. Open champ Gary Woodland at 72. He's in that kind of discussion. So, yeah, there's some really terrific players who would be in that group. Adam Scott at 90. Who doesn't want to see Adam Scott play under any circumstance, any course, any day? I want to see him. So there's some great players who are going to potentially be in that 50 to 100 category. Holy cow. Jordan Spieth is the bubble boy. He sits at number 50 right now today. And so it will, maybe he slips over the weekend, and maybe he decides he wants to play in the fall series tournaments. Maybe he comes to Black Desert. That would be fun.
That would be fun. All right, back over to the here and now. I always like to ask you about the course. TPC Southwind, Memphis, Tennessee. Paul, tell me about the track.
It is another of these PGA Tour-owned TPC courses. It's a parkland course. They tend to be reasonably short parkland courses that are designed to to handle a big crowd. There's a lot of amphitheater seating around the greens, and these are courses that they can. Through very standard, usual means, they can make them play soft. They can dry them out and make them play hard. So far this week, it's not been playing too terribly difficult. You see an awfully lot of holes where the main drill is to get the ball in the fairway because the rough is healthy. And so far, Tommy Fleetwood has driven the ball better than the rest of the field, and he has a 4-shot lead on the field going into the weekend. There is not a cut this week, only 70 players in the 69 players in the field, and so they don't need to make a cut. And there's a whole bunch of players stacked up at T5 and T2. So even though Tommy has a 4-shot lead, the nature of this course makes it gettable, and for players who put their tee shot in the fairway. And that's the thing to look for this weekend. A player driving the ball onto short grass is going to have an advantage. So far, it's been Tommy Fleetwood this week.
So let's give Tommy a little love here. Golf fans obviously know who he is. Ryder Cup star, over in Europe, but has never won a PGA Tour event. And he seems like one of those guys, and we do this in other sports, where it's like John Stockton, Karl Malone, they're too good not to win a championship. You could go down the list of players that were great in other sports that have never won a title. And Tommy just feels like he's due, right? He's had several opportunities. This would be quite a splash to win your first with that kind of purse on on the line. But what are your thoughts on Tommy, not just in the lead, but in the lead by 4? And what does he need to do over the weekend to get his first PGA Tour win?
Well, first of all, I'm cheering for him. Tommy is eminently likable in every way for a dozen reasons. One of which is he's got a ton of game. He is so good. And you're so right. How in the world has he not won a big tournament on U.S. soil? Now, he's won plenty over in Europe. And as you mentioned, he is a Ryder Cup beast. But holy cow, you've got to win in the States. Your career simply is incomplete if you don't. And I hope this is the week. I would love to see Tommy win. And what he has to do is keep putting the drive on the cut grass. If he keeps playing the driver the way he has played it the first 2 rounds, he will win. If he starts spraying his driver, if he starts having to hit second shots out of the rough, people can catch him.
While we're talking about first-time winners on tour, Cameron Young is also another golfer that I think, burst on the scene as a rookie, and everybody's like, man, that dude's got a ton of game. I think the number is like 10 top or 12 top 10s and like 7 runner-ups or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And he breaks through last week at the Wyndham Championship and runs away from the field. And another one that just feels like a long time coming, for a kid that's got a lot of game.
A heck of a lot of game. And he comes out of the metropolitan New York area where it is the amateur game is hyper competitive, and he dominated there. How has he not won until this last week? That's been a big question on the tour. He hits the ball a mile. He generates a ton of speed. He's a good putter. Well, he finally broke through, and I'm very, very happy for him and completely unsurprised. But the thing that's fun about that is that it puts him on the on the border of Ryder Cup conversation, and especially if Captain Keegan Bradley, who currently sits at 10 on the Ryder Cup points, if he opts not to choose himself, then it opens up a spot for somebody like Cameron Young to be on the Ryder Cup team.
All right, I got to check with you. I know I do this all the time, but Keegan continues. Paul Keegan continues, man. If he qualifies via points, should he play? Should he play and captain?
If he qualifies via points, I'm becoming willing to maybe bite my tongue on my opposition to him playing. But choosing himself, I think that would be such a bad choice. Now, he knows more than me, but I'll tell you, there are people who do know about this, most notably Trevor Immelman, who has been captain of a President's Cup team. And Trevor Immelman just says, you cannot begin to imagine how much there is to do and the pressure associated with it. As the captain, it is a more than full-time job. So Immelman thinks that Bradley should not play, period. Keegan Bradley has 2,000 points to make up to qualify on points. He would have to win at East Lake in order to do that, but he could.
I beat you in a submission, Paul. I've asked you all year. We finally got you to admit that it would be okay if he qualifies that way. Hey, while we're in the space of kind of conversations about things, they're a little bit intangible, I was surprised to see the reaction to Scottie Scheffler's comments, and this is a little bit yesterday's news, when he basically said golf isn't a source of fulfillment for him. And, and look, I think stuff like this fascinates me, because I don't think Scottie would say that if he was like 52nd in points and trying to make the fact that he is at the top of the sport and the fact that he's won almost everything you can win at such a young age colors this contextualized in a pretty interesting way to me. Now, when it comes to athletes in any sport, it's always interesting to me how they achieve what they achieve and where they find motivation. Now, I was raised with a generation of athletes that I felt like had a proverbial chip on their shoulder all the time and used things that were wild to be motivated to go out and be killers to compete and win. Darren Williams used to talk all the time about how every time he played Ray Felton, he wanted to just kill Raymond Felton. And I'm like, dude, you were drafted higher than him. You went to a fun, like he always talked about how Ray Felton was recruited to play college basketball at Carolina, and Carolina never looked at him. And it was one of those fights where you're like, Darren, you won that fight 10 years ago. Yet he always found this chip. I feel like Tiger was the type of competitor that wanted to slit your throat and watch you die. And Scotty just isn't that guy. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong, but man, did that get a lot of reaction. How did you digest Scotty Scheffler's comments a few weeks ago about how, the fulfillment in his life, he finds it at home with his wife and kid, not on the golf course?
I thought it was something we already knew about Scotty Scheffler, but he said it in a different way. He said it coming off of a major championship win where he smoked field at the Open. And so the context of it changed, I think, our attention. But I think Scotty has said this in different ways at different times more than once. And I think other players have said it. And good land. Jack Nicklaus, he said at the beginning of his career, I will never play more than 2 weeks in a row. I will never be more than 2 weeks away from home. And he missed tournaments that it made sense for him to play in because he lived up to that throughout his career. Tiger softened when his kids got older and when his kids started doing things. You're sure right. Early in his career, he'd step on your throat and watch you bleed. But he changed as he got older. Phil Mickelson made it very clear to the USGA that he would leave the U.S. Open mid-round if his wife went into labor. And this was a U.S. Open that he ended up finishing second in. And he missed a U.S. Open because his daughter graduated from high school, and that's just the way the schedule fell. So there's a lot of precedence for this kind of thing. But Scheffler, we've known about this in his character from the beginning. It really was, I think, the reaction, I think, was more about those of us paying attention than it was about Scotty Scheffler and his view of it, because I think he said it to us before.
Well, and additionally, McIlroy himself not too long ago said nobody can compete with Scotty when Scotty is being Scotty. Like that, and again, I hate to invoke Tiger here, but there was always a feel of intimidation that felt different with Tiger. But I don't think Scotty needs to have the stone cold competitor attitude to have that intimidation. I think his game speaks for himself. I think no matter, like if Scotty Scheffler shows up at a tournament, it feels like the rest of the field knows, like, we've got to beat that guy regardless of what the approach is.
Absolutely. And I love the comparisons between Scheffler now and Tiger at his height. Scheffler still has a little bit of ways to go to reach where Tiger was at his height, but boy, howdy, he is on his way. He's got a foot in the door. And you can cut across 24 different stats and compare them, and they're all interesting and they're all instructive. But there is one element of Scotty's game and Tiger's game that everybody knows, everybody in the field knows, and that is that Scotty Scheffler, Tiger Woods, they don't give strokes back, which means that every time somebody in the field makes a bogey, they know they've lost ground that Scheffler is not going to give back to them. They have to go make it up themselves. And that is really, really hard to do. But that characteristic in the game, in the management of the game, to never give strokes back, that's what set Scheffler apart. That's what set Tiger apart. I mean, holy cow, everything that Tiger did, and yet he never once was on a 59 watch. He never was the guy who went stupid low. He was always the guy who never gave shots back. And that's what made him so unbeatable, because everybody knew that if they gave a shot back, Tiger wasn't going to go with them. They had to make it up themselves, and you just couldn't over time.
No, go ahead.
Anyway, so that's where Scheffler is, and I think you make a very good observation. He knows this. He knows that his game is in a place where they have to come get him. And so, yeah, he's got a lot of freedom to be very, very clear about what he's thinking about things.
So Tony Finau through 2 rounds, 69-68, and we would all love that. So it's not like it's, like it's weird to try to analyze where he's at because he's played well over the first 2 rounds, but it's kind of like a microcosm of his entire year. Like, okay, it's good, but it's not good enough to keep up with your peers. He's tied for 25 at 3 under. So again, a solid start for Tony, but what are you expecting to see from him over the weekend, and what do you make of the latest with just simply how he's playing?
Well, this is simply how he's playing. And look, we all know that Tony can go off at any moment and throw down a 62. We know this. But the reality is he hasn't been doing it this year. And the thing that's interesting to me mathematically about where he sits at T25 is that he's right there in the top third of the field. Well, that's where he is in the FedEx points for the season. He's in the top third. He is showing us this week exactly what he's shown us all year. And it's a heck of a good life. Let there be no mistake, but he is not doing what's necessary to be in the mix on Sunday afternoon. That's very clear.
All right, Paul, before I set you loose, I always like to kick the tires on who can win the thing, and Tommy might just run away because he has a 4-stroke lead. However, he has a 4-stroke lead over Colin Morikawa, who is a very, very good golfer. Akshay goes low with 62. Justin Rose, a well-respected, probably Hall of Fame golfer. And then you've got Scotty at 7 under. So, Scotty, the group at 7 under is 6 strokes back, but Scotty Scheffler. How many people left standing do you think have a chance to win the thing?
If Tommy Fleetwood continues to hit the ball into the fairway like I was talking about, then nobody does. But having said that, you were correct to identify Morikawa and Rose. Kurt Kitayama, really solid player, and he has the ability. Also at T7 with Scotty Scheffler is Maverick McNeely. McNeely is a heck of a good player. McNeely is I am really sure he will be on the Ryder Cup team. And so those are the names I would be looking at the most, but everything is contingent on whether Fleetwood continues to drive the ball in the fairway.
All right, Paul, what's coming up on the show tomorrow? Then we'll set you loose.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So tomorrow on Utah Golf Radio, we're going to be going deep on Patrick Fishburne, on a BYU in Ogden. He had a great Saturday and Sunday, a great weekend last week at the Wyndham after making the cut on the number, and there was a story behind that as well. There was a rain delay. They came back Saturday morning, and he goes birdie, par birdie to make the cut on the number, and then he has a great weekend and plays his way from 106 into 95 and makes the top 100 at the end of the regular season. Really, really incredible play there. We're going to be talking about that, and we're also going to get to know Emily Hoffman, who is new to Utah and comes down to the University of Texas and the Epson Tour. And this week she won the Utah Women's Open at the Country Club of Salt Lake.
Very nice, Paul. We'll have a great show tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend and the tournament, and we'll chat soon. Thank you, sir.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Spencer.
All right, Paul Pugmire, the FedEx St. Jude Championship going on right now, the TPC Southwind course in Memphis, Tennessee. Our You Into Golf PGA update is brought to you by You Into Golf, not to be redundant. You can dominate the tee with Titleist, GT metals, and experience faster speeds with longer, straighter drives at You Into Golf and worldwidegolfshops.com. Tommy Fleetwood is your leader in the clubhouse, 13 under par after carding a 64 today. Colin Morikawa and Akshay Bhatia, as well as Justin Rose, are 9 under. Justin Rose is through 16. Play was suspended due to weather earlier. Kurt Kitayama, Andrew Novak, 8 under par. Then you find Scotty Scheffler, Bud Colley, Jacob Bridgman, and Maverick McNeely at 7 under par. J.J. Spahn, Ludwig Oberg, Siwoo Kim, Sepp Straka, and Chris Kirk all at 6 under. Wyndham Clark at 5 under par. Our local player, Tony Finau, with a couple of solid rounds. He's tied at 25 at 3 under par. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side, our friend Jason Patacchio covers the University of Utah from the Salt Lake Tribune, joins us. And we'll get into the 5 o'clock hour of the program, all before we say goodnight at 6, right here on ESPN 700. All right, the question here is obvious. Did Jason Batacchio, who was a young, did he go with Simple Plan, or is this something you chose yourself?
Oh no, this was just a callback to our conversation earlier. Simple Plan. I think you can win tickets on the show on the station this week somehow.
All right, yeah. I guess you got to listen to the Sean show for that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But Jason's just a kid, so I guess it plays too.
Yeah, no, that works. We had Jason's boss in studio, Aaron Falk, earlier, and Jason Batacchio makes his triumphant return to the program on a Friday. Jason, happy Friday, man. How are you?
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
We're good. I got to know, as a young, what's on the Apple Music, Spotify playlist for Jason Batacchio these days?
That's a good question. I honestly have a mix of a lot of things. I'm a bit of an oldie at heart. I've been listening to a lot of Outkast lately. Some Minnie Riperton. I know that sounds crazy coming from a 23-year-old. Drake's been in heavy rotation. Obviously, Kendrick Lamar. I know that's a pretty hot topic. But yeah, honestly, a little bit of everything. Yeah, I like some country here and there. You know, my Oklahoma roots. So yeah, I don't know. Just anything that comes on the playlist. Honestly, I play. But those are the things that come to mind for me. I'm sure you're pretty shocked about the Minnie Riperton. I was too when I started listening to it. Not gonna lie. So yeah.
Jason, only respect for Minnie Riperton. You lost me at Drake. I'm not a Drake guy.
Okay, Kendrick at least.
Love me some Kendrick, just not a Drake guy. Never have been.
Okay. What's your favorite Kendrick album? I have to ask.
Oh, you got to go all the way back. I'm gonna have to look it up because mostly his old stuff. When he first, because my son, I raised my son on hip hop, but I am I'm like a '90s hip hop, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul type. And so I don't listen to a lot of new stuff, but when Kendrick dropped, my son was like, you gotta listen to Kendrick. So I listened to a lot of Kendrick's early stuff, but not so much as of late.
Yeah, I'm a big Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul fan as well. My friend put me on because I was a big Jay Dilla guy, and I
there you go.
had no clue that. Yeah, so. But yeah, those are some of my favorite artists. But enough of artists. I'm sure you guys are here to have me on for other things. So yeah.
Oh, not at all, Jason. You have to understand, and I remind people this: we have 4 hours of airtime to fill, so we can talk about hip hop like all day. Because we were debating a question earlier, and I got Falk's take on this. Do you think there is such a thing as just good music? Is there like a definition of good music, or is it left to the discretion of the individual?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's bad music. Like I feel like if you play bad music, the majority of people will tell you it's bad music. But I think good music is up to the discretion of the individual, honestly, because everybody has their own little genre that they like. Some people are country lovers, some people are hip hop lovers, some people love R&B, and so yeah, I don't know, but I feel like a really bad song, you can tell. Like that's just my opinion, and maybe there's the one person that really likes a horrible song, but I don't know. I feel like people are usually in agreement of like that's a horrible song, but good songs. I don't know. It kind of has some variance to it. So I don't know. That's a good question. Really philosophical question. I like it though.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. Your boss and friend, Aaron Falk, kind of had a similar response. So, all right, now we'll move over into the scope of Utah football, Jason, as we're 3 weeks away tomorrow from opening day. Let me just get your feel, just your overall feel, general feel, as you've been up there witnessing as much practice as they allow and interviewing as many people as they allow you to. It feels like, and maybe this is just this time of year, there's a tremendous amount of optimism and positive energy is a term I hear a lot from players and coaches. What's your feel just as far as where Utah football is at 3 weeks away from the opener?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. It feels like things are more positive than they have been in a while, and that's not to say past iterations of the teams have not been positive, but there's just kind of a feeling of unknown, but also a feeling of like hope, I would say. I think Devin's brought a lot of renewed energy and leadership to this team. It seems like he's like the guy, and I've not heard Kyle rave about somebody more than him. all fall camp. Obviously the defense is going to be the defense. Wayshawn Parker's obviously been hyped up the past few days. I know Utah fans saw that highlight clip of him running over like 3 defenders into the end zone. And so, I would say the same thing. It's kind of like a renewed energy. I think Kyle feels that way, and so, yeah, I would agree with you on that.
When it comes to Devin Dampier, I was surprised at Big 12 Media Days that the optimism for what he could be seemed to be a consensus positive. Like, ultimately, he's jumping up a level in competition. Ultimately, it was 12 TDs, 12 picks through the air. And ultimately, he's my size. He's like 5'10", 5'11", But Jason, from my standpoint, everybody is expecting and believes that great things are going to happen with him. Do you share that sentiment? Do you share that optimism?
Yeah, I would say I'm relatively high on Devin. I think the turnovers are an issue, and they were an issue last year. Obviously, that has to be cleaned up, especially in the Big 12. But he has the capability and the numbers. I mean, are there? There's only been, I think, 4 or 5 other quarterbacks that have done what he's done. 2 from my alma mater at Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. And when you're on the echelon, statistically, obviously it was in the Mountain West, and we know what the Mountain West is as a conference. But I would say that, yeah, there is a lot of optimism. I think now it's just the rubber's got to meet the road somewhere, and Utah fans will really see if the hype is what it's supposed to be with him. But when you have a quarterback that can run for 1,000 yards and pass for 2,500 yards and do it at a high level, obviously there's a lot of room for optimism. But I think the other thing that coaches and the players and just kind of the vibe that I've gotten from people I've talked to is like he's a tremendous leader. He's somebody that is just not a me guy. He's taking everybody to dinner. He knows, he's one of those guys that knows everybody's name on the team. And I think that's encouraging just from the perspective of being a quarterback. You want somebody that can rally the troops. You want somebody that, can build that trust, not only on the field, but off the field. And so that's kind of been, obviously we can talk all about, his passing, turnovers need to be cleaned up, or, he ran for 1,000 yards. But when we're talking about pure intangibles, I think his leadership and just his ability to, form relationships with the players this year has been something that everybody's talked about. And, so, yeah, I would say the feeling is high. We'll see what happens this year. I think UCLA will be a really good first test for him, especially going against Nico and a former 5-star quarterback in him. So, yeah, I would say the vibes are high right now, but we'll see where it goes for sure.
So ultimately, I mean, I don't know if it's the Northeast in me. I'm just skeptical about everything and anything. So it's just kind of like the Missouri motto, the show me state.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I bring it up in that context, Jason, like who's he throwing the ball to? Like who is kind of stepped forward out of this wide receiver group? Because even if Zach Williams didn't transfer, there was still questions about the depth of what that room was going to look like. But Zach is in Southern Cal for USC. So tell me what your understanding is as far as the way this wide receiver group is evolving, and whether or not you have confidence that he's going to have the weapons he needs to do what he needs to do in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is a lot of skepticism in the wide receiver room, and Kyle's even noted it. Just even in the first 2 weeks of camp is like, that's the biggest question mark that Utah has heading into the season, even with or without Zach Williams. But a few names have kind of been floating around. Tobias Merriweather obviously is somebody who is 6'4", can run a 4-4 split. He had decent success at Notre Dame, and I'm blanking on the other school he went to. But obviously been to 2 schools. He said this week that he came to Utah for a star role. And it seems like he's rising to the top. Outside of him, we've heard a lot about D'Adrian Zipper, a guy that's a returner. It seems like he's making headway, a lot of good catches. I know a lot of fans saw that pass from Isaac Wilson to him where he, pulled out some of the toe drag swag, as I would call it, in my young years.
Nice.
It caught a ball diving on the sideline. So those seem like the two guys right now that could be, risers for number one and number two. But outside of that, it's really, up for grabs. I mean, Creed Whittemore, he's, somebody that has size, came from the SEC, was a 4-star recruit. We talked to him a little bit this week. Ryan Davis is a vet. He had 700 plus receiving yards last year. He's somebody that Devin's familiar with, so there's a chemistry already established there. You could throw him in the slot. And so, yeah, I would say Tobias and Zipper are kind of the two guys that seem like they're rising right now, but it's still a question. And I'm sure we'll learn more next week just with the Saturday scrimmage that, is going on, and Kyle will open up a bit more. But it is a question mark for sure, but it kind of just depends on who wants to rise. And I think Utah's in an interesting position. I mean, if they don't have receivers they can go to, I mean, Dallin Bentley is a good tight end. Obviously limited action last year because Brant Keithy was there. And Carson Ryan, who's now at BYU. Hunter Andrews is a guy that I feel like they can trust. We've heard a lot about Jackson Benny already. He's a walk-on. So it sounds like they're going through all their options, and Kyle's not going to allow them to have no options. When Lander Barton and Smith Snowden are going to be receiving options next year, I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but it seems like they're definitely trying to figure it out. So that's probably the positive for Utah fans.
For sure. Well said. And, this isn't a trade that's exclusive to Coach Witt. Most great coaches want to control the trenches, and they want great offensive lines and great defensive lines. And Kyle's had some great offensive lines, man, and great offensive linemen who have gone to the pros, and we could go down the list of Garrett Bowles and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know that I can remember as much hype surrounding a Utah offensive line as we're seeing this year. Dane Brugler from The Athletic released his summer offensive tackle rankings as far as the NFL draft goes, and coming in at 2 is Spencer Fano, and at 5 is Caleb Lomu. I mean, 2 of the top 5 tackles in America, according to a draft analyst who I think does a really good job, play for this University of Utah football team. And surrounding them are really talented veteran players as well. So what sort of buzz are you hearing about this offensive line, and how beneficial is it for Devin to have these big dogs up front?
This goes all the way back to the winter transfer portal. You hear these guys are getting offers, $1 million, $2 million from SEC schools, Big Ten schools here or there. And that's kind of when my radar started pinging, is like, oh, these guys are legit, because, when SEC and Big Ten schools are throwing around money, obviously they have a lot of money, but, when they're throwing around money like that, I mean, it's for, not for no reason. And so I think the hype is legit. They're both extremely athletic tackles. And, in NFL systems, we have a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay who love using the zone read and getting guys in space, and Jason Beck has said multiple times in fall camp and even in the spring that he plans on using both those guys in space. I think that's just a plus, and just shows the level of upside that both of those guys have. And for Devin and even Wayshawn Parker, I think it's just a benefit. If the passing game doesn't work, or it's, not to the level that Kyle wants it to be, then you run the ball. And we saw Big 12 offenses like Arizona State last year, who had Cam Scatterbo, and they ran the ball over and over again, and it almost led them to a win over Texas in the college football playoffs. So, it's obviously a plus. And don't forget about the interior offensive linemen either. I mean, Jared Kump's a proven veteran. The 2 guards that they have are also proven veterans, and they're also showing up on mock draft boards. So, I've heard some people tell me that this is maybe the best offensive line Utah has had. I'm not going to make any lofty predictions that will bite me back. But I would say it's definitely up there. And I would say Spencer and Caleb definitely have a chance to be 2 of some of the best offensive linemen in Utah history, just based off of, what people are saying about them and the intangibles that they're currently displaying. So, yeah, and like I said, I think it just benefits Devin. Who doesn't want two All-American tackles? I think any quarterback would ask for that at any level of college football. So, yeah.
You referenced Wayshawn Parker, who had a really nice freshman season for Wazoo, over 5 yards per carry. Wasn't their primary, but still nearly went for 800 yards. Came out, and you wrote about this recently, said he wants to touch that 1,500-yard mark. Utah's had 17 running backs go over 1,000 yards during their storied football career. So tell me about what you've seen from Wayshawn, and then expand the conversation into the room entirely, some other names maybe to watch out for at that position.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wayshawn is just an extremely physical runner, but he's also shifty. And those are two traits when you can combine them together in a running back, it bodes very well. Utah has had really good running backs, but I don't know if they've had somebody that's also shifty and extremely physical. And I mean, we saw the clip that was posted, a day or two ago of him just running over defenders. I mean, if he can stay healthy, and him and Devin are what people say they are, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. I don't know if 1,500 yards will be, if he'll be able to get that. I mean, there's only been 3 Utah players that have ever done that in history, if my stats are correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But, I think the sky's the limit for him. He seems like a great kid. I say kid, and I'm 23. It's kind of funny to say that, but, he seems like, just as people have talked about with Devin, I mean, the potential's there. He ran 735 yards and as a freshman at Washington State alongside John Mateer, who was also a dual threat quarterback. And so, we'll see what happens. Bakari Rogers is somebody that has been kind of floating around, but I think behind him, I mean, there's a breadth of running backs that can kind of step up. Utah has Racine Gollery, who, is a 4-star. Obviously, I don't think he'll get playing time, but, somebody with talent behind him. Devin Green is coming in. He knows Wayshawn. And so there's a lot of guys that can kind of step up and, take on a feature role. I think Wayshawn will be the feature back, but if you need a third down or, a back to play different roles, and, you can do that in this offense. So, yeah.
Think we were all operating off the assumption that Isaac would be the backup after getting some time as a freshman. And, certainly it didn't look great, and it's hard to put a lot of that on him, but because, true freshmen don't often play very well, certainly at that position. He was thrust into duty because Cameron couldn't stay healthy. But he had opportunities to go elsewhere, elected to come back, and I figured that was because he would at least be the backup. But it seems like there's a lot of buzz around the Bird Ficklin kid who, like Devin, can make plays with his feet in a way. And Isaac's not awful at that. It's just he can really, those Wilson boys can just really throw a football. So how real is this battle for the backup quarterback, and where do you think we are at right now in that race?
Yeah, I think Kyle said it best. It's a dead heat, and I think at this point last year, we knew that Isaac was going to be the backup, and it was over veterans like Brandon Rose, Luke Batari, and even Sam Heward, who now was at USC. But it seems like Kyle said, it's a dead heat. Obviously 2 different style of quarterbacks. If you're going to look at Beck's system, I mean, Bird is a dual threat quarterback. I would have hesitation personally about throwing a true freshman out there. Isaac has more experience. But this is what training camp's for. It's to see who rises to the top, and so I think it's a real competition. I think we'll know more next week based off of what Kyle and the coaching staff see in the Saturday scrimmage. But it's up for grabs, and I could see it going either way. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Isaac. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was Bird, because just the level of play that he's had as a freshman is. I mean, he's talented. Kyle even said he had a live arm. So, it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Nate Johnson, Jason, once upon a time was here and received reps as a starting quarterback as a result of injuries, because for a couple of years, everybody was getting reps at starting quarterback because nobody could stay healthy. He leaves and he comes back. And one thing we know is that he can burn. I mean, he's a dynamite athlete. I don't know that he's a quarterback. I'm not sure that he'll be used that way. But what have you seen so far in your limited opportunities as far as how you think they're going to use Nate Johnson this year?
Yeah, he's a Swiss Army knife. I mean, they can use him in any way possible. They've lined him up at receiver. Maybe he could play some running back. I mean, if push comes to shove and you need a quarterback, I'm sure Utah fans hope it doesn't come to that. But he's a guy who's played snaps at quarterbacks. I think you could put him everywhere except for offensive line, honestly. And so, I think it's up to the coaching staff to kind of figure out what they think is best for him. But he is an athlete. He's somebody who is a burner, and if you get him in space, he can make plays with the ball, and I think that's what Utah brought him in for. And so I think it'll be an opportunity-based approach, or opportunity-based approach would probably be the best way to say that. But, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't answer that because I think he is just going to be a Swiss Army knife, and whatever they feel in the moment. Nate, go line up at wide receiver, go line up at tight end, go line up at quarterback. I think it'd be interesting to see a Nate Johnson, Devin Dampier read option. I would be fascinated to see how that goes. Can you imagine those two athletes behind this offensive line? So, I think it's an open playbook for him for sure.
All right, Jason, before I set you loose, around here we always say you don't really worry about a Utah defense with Coach Witt and Morgan Scalley as the D coordinator, but they did lose two key pieces as Keanu Tanavasa is a Cougar and Cameron Calhoun is a Crimson Tide. How are they replacing those two before I set you loose?
Yeah, obviously Aliki Vimaha and Dallas, are rising in the defensive tackle room. I probably just butchered those names, so I apologize.
You're good.
And in the cornerback room, Smith Snowden, Scooby Davis, those have been the two names that have floated around. Blake Cotton is obviously a guy that I think Utah is high on. And Sharif Saw has mentioned that his depth this year at cornerback is much better than it was at any point. So, yeah, I would say when you have Smith and when you have Scooby at the cornerback position, you're not really worried about the cornerback spot, especially when Sharif is saying that, his depth is as good as it is. I think the defensive tackle spot is an interesting question. They brought in two guys from the transfer portal for depth. But I think Keanu Tanavasa is going to be hard to replace, and I know that's hard for Utah fans to hear. But Keanu was really good whenever he was playing last year. Obviously, he was injured for a large portion of the season. But Junior Tafuna is going to be hard to replace as well. But I think defensively, Utah has shown years and years, over and over again that they've been able to replace guys with, guys that have been, marinating on the depth chart for multiple seasons. And so, I think people will have questions about it, but, they'll probably rise to the top again, just in terms of, guys that they've developed over and over again. And so, yeah, but I do think the portal does make it interesting, when you do lose guys like Keanu and Cam Calhoun and you expected those two guys to be starters for you. And now they're gone. I mean, it's always going to raise question marks, but, Utah's known for its defense. Last year they struggled against the run. I think that's the biggest question for Utah this season is just, how are they going to manage the run defensively in the Big 12 for a second season? So, yeah.
Where can everybody go find your work, Jay?
Go look up Jason Batacchio. It's JASON BATACAO on Google. You can find me there. Or you can follow me on Twitter, even though I'm not a big Twitter guy right now. I've been told I need to tweet more, so I just don't like that app sometimes. But you can follow me on Twitter at J_BATACAO. I'm definitely trying to post more, so you'll probably catch me on there a little bit more during the season. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thanks for the time, buddy. Have a good weekend, okay?
Yeah, you too. Appreciate you guys.
Jason Batacchio covers the University of Utah for the Salt Lake Tribune. We are 3 weeks away from tomorrow. Opening day for the Utes, opening day for BYU, opening day for Utah State. College football is right around the corner. All right, we'll do more football in the 5 o'clock hour. You'll hear from former Ute Trevor Riley. He's got a really interesting, exciting new endeavor. We'll go from there. We'll say goodnight at 6 o'clock. 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. We'll keep it right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. All right, let's get it. Drive at 5 time, Friday afternoon style. It's about 8 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Happy Friday to you. A little cooler temperature. It's still warm. It's still summer. It's still August. You guys know how that works. But the weekend looks like some great weather. So happy weekend to you. Congratulations. You made it. Weekend time. Thanks for making us a part of your day today. It's been a fun show today. Been a fun show all week. Trevor Riley will stop by coming up in a bit. The former Ute, former NFL player, has a really fun new project we're going to talk about, so stay tuned for that. We are 3 weeks away from tomorrow, opening day for Utah football. They'll be at the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. BYU welcomes in Portland State. Still no word on BYU starting quarterback. Utah State will welcome in UTEP for game 1 of the Bronco Mendenhall era. We had some preseason football last night. And preseason football continues tonight with 3 different games, then some games over the weekend. Actually in action right now, the Lions and the Falcons, the Browns and the Panthers. Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback for the Browns, and they receive the kickoff, so we'll see how Shedeur does tonight. No Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. They kick off in about 20 minutes from right now. Last night we saw the Ravens beat the Colts. Anthony Richardson dislocated a finger, had to leave the game. He and Daniel Jones are jockeying for that starting job. No Jalen Hurts for the Eagles, but we did see Joe Burrow for the Bengals. He went 9 of 10, found Jamar Chase 4 different times. Then the Raiders and the Seahawks tied at 23, so football is back. And we'll get you ready for kickoff on the college football side of things. RSL is in action Sunday at 4 o'clock Mountain Time. They're taking on the New York Red Bulls. Ruan Cruz made his debut for RSL on Wednesday. No word on the debut of Victor Olatunji, the other player they were able to add via the transfer window. We have the matchups for Christmas Day in the world of professional basketball. Breaking news, the Jazz will not play. But we have opening night matchups as well. It'll be the Rockets and the Thunder, then the Warriors and the Lakers. So we have some scheduling matchups in pro basketball on Christmas. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell at Madison Square Garden, Cavs, Knicks, Spurs, Thunder, Rockets, Lakers, Mavericks, Warriors, and T-Wolves, Denver Nuggets. Joe Mazzulla got an extension today, so a little off-season NBA news to boot. The world of professional golf has their eyes on the FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis, Tennessee, where Tommy Fleetwood from the UK is looking for his first PGA Tour victory of his career. He's won a ton over in Europe, but he's never won here in the States. Tommy's got a 4-stroke lead. He's 13 under par after carding a 64. On the chase will be Colin Morikawa, Akshay Bhatia, and Justin Rose, all at 9 under. Justin was through 16 when the event was delayed by weather. Scotty Scheffler's at 7 under par. Always watching out for him. Tony Finau, good, not great. Solid couple of rounds, 68, 69. He's at 3 under par, which is tied for 25th. So there you go. Dane Brugler from The Athletic released his summer offensive tackle draft rankings today, and Spencer Fano came in at 2, and Caleb Lomu came in at 5. Utah has 2 of the top 5 tackles in the country, according to one of the best talent evaluators in media. So some good stuff there. We'll talk some more Ute football coming up on the other side. Stay tuned. One of my favorite guests, Trevor Riley, will join us. And then we'll bid you good night and a good weekend at 6 o'clock on a Friday. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up, the final segment of the program for both the day and the week here on ESPN 700. It's been a fun week. Next week when we crack the mic, we'll be under 3 weeks away from college football for Utah, BYU, Utah State, and, of course, nationally as well. The Utah Little League World Series team lost earlier to Nevada. We've got a tri-state battle right now between my home state, Connecticut, and the home state that people from my home state wish they were from, New York. Connecticut 1, New York 0. I always found it weird. We'd be at like Jones Beach at a concert or something, Jones Beach in New York, and I'd have a friend who'd like approach a girl. She'd be like, "Where are you from?"
Jam band concert, by the way.
Chances are it was Dave. Chances are it was Fish. Maybe String Cheese Incident if you want to get deep in the jam band catalog. But I'd have a friend talking to a girl. She'd be like, "Where are you from?" He'd be like, "New York." I'm like, "Dude, no, you're not. Stop lying. You're from Connecticut. Do not say you're from New York, you liar." It's a pet peeve of mine when people from New York, or excuse me, people from Connecticut, are like, "Hey, where are you from?" It's like, "Oh, no, I grew up in New York." No, you didn't. Stop lying.
Why are you subtweeting Donovan Mitchell on your way out of here?
Excellent poll. Greenwich's own Donovan Mitchell. That would be like you saying, like, "Oh, I grew up in the heart of Park City."
Kind of. But
I mean, you're close enough, but you're not a Park City guy.
Yeah, that's like really Park City's like the closest thing that anyone knows to my town. So I oftentimes actually say that because if I say Weber Canyon or Oakley, like no one's going to know where I'm from unless they grew up in that valley. So I guess I don't know. I struggle there because I have told people I'm from Park City.
Yeah.
Or just Salt Lake. Like I'm from around here.
Okay.
But I understand. We're tribal. You didn't say anything about my bump music either.
Well, who was that? I didn't know who it was.
Hootie.
That was Hootie?
Yeah.
It was actually a decent bump.
It's a good song.
Well, I only know.
Good band.
It's not a good band. I've seen them live. It's not a good band. In fairness, I do not celebrate their entire catalog, but we did learn a lesson today, and I'm going to internalize it, and I'm going to be better. No, I'm not. But I will be kinder. No, I won't. About other people's choices. I'm a music snob. I am an admitted music snob.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think
of the deal.
I think that's okay.
You kind of are too, though.
I
okay?
am.
Yeah.
No, let's be very clear. I'm a music snob. It's just different. Again, it's just different taste. And I think my music snobbery is good music, but some people don't like to listen to a 92-year-old man who has written 1,050 songs on a stool sing like another song, right? Willie Nelson, my guy. A lot of people are Willie Nelson'd out. I get it. Still good.
Okay. To each their own. So the texter that sent in the text during Sean's airing of grievances, thank you for your feedback. I will take it to heart, and I will continue to knock on your horrible taste in music. All right, Porter, before we get out of here and celebrate our weekend, started out the right way, what comes our way on a Monday edition of the show?
On a Monday edition of The Drive, of course, we'll recap the weekend that was, Real Salt Lake. Yeah, I got some baseball over the weekend. We've got some preseason football over the weekend. So we'll get to all of that. Bill Riley, maybe, on the show on a Monday. Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews will stop by the program. Amy Donaldson for an entire hour. We'll have some sound from Utah Fall Camp after the weekend. So a bunch to get to on a Monday.
There you go. So join us for a Monday show. That will be a fun one. We'll say goodnight for a Friday edition. And special thank you to Trevor Riley, Aaron Falk, JP Chunga, Paul Pugmire, and Jason Batacchio. Fun show today. If you missed any of it, check it out over the weekend on your time. Go to the website, ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. And then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page, become a supporter, and help us out by subscribing, rating, and reviewing. We all ask you to do it because it helps us out if you do. Say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. For Porter, I'm Spence. Say goodnight. We'll talk to you on a Monday edition of the program. As always, you can catch that right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah